Hey guys, thanks for sticking with us at the Not So Special Forces podcast. Episode number 2, part 2 with Jeremiah is going to start right now. Let's get back into it. Thanks.
Vehicle are taking fire on primary and secondary positions, requesting immediate engagement and overhead control. Engage.
All right, everyone, we are back from a quick and needed break. We were talking about Jeremiah's exit from active duty, his time spent in the reserves and what he did with it. And then we talked about the events of September 11th, where he was. We talked about his unit not being immediately called into service to go fight anywhere, and they spent a lot of time preparing for something that was going to be the inevitable. His unit's going to get activated, active duty. So let's pick it up from there, Jeremiah. What happened? You guys get activated. Where did you go?
Yeah, around December of '02, we got a warning order that the unit was going to go in support of force protection and Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti, Africa. And naturally, like anybody, when they hear that, they giggle a little bit because it's called Djibouti. But we looked in the maps, we got a little bit of in briefs and what it was, and I'm like, this is literally the armpit of Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got some time there, and for maybe the viewers of the podcast and supporters of the foundation, Djibouti really wasn't anything. Jimmy Carter kind of stood it up for us for Operation Eagle Claw, and since that time, it went from a very small operation dealing with U.S. Special Forces doing operations out of Djibouti into the Middle East, and it wasn't really until the global war on terror where we started dumping a lot of money to that place. So I got some time in Djibouti during the 90s. I always tell people the two hottest places I've ever been is Djibouti, Africa, and Yuma, Arizona. Those are the two hottest places in the world.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Djibouti's got an interesting history to it, and man, so much has been launched and handled out of Djibouti, especially there. Whether it be up in Somaliland, over in Yemen, Eagle Claw. We tried to get the hostages out during the Carter administration with Iran, and just knowing what Djibouti is today, it's just one of the few good moves that Jimmy Carter did. So
right, yeah, for sure. And anybody that's ever seen the movie Lionheart, in the very beginning of Lionheart, when he escapes from the French Foreign Legion, because that's mainly who's there was the French Foreign Legion. They had a base right across the street from ours. When he's running through the desert at the beginning, and it says right underneath the caption, whatever year it was, Djibouti, Africa, this year. And years later, we were all like, hey, no shit, that's us. So we get a warning order. We're going to go to Djibouti. It's a force protection mission where we're basically going to be guarding this base. We didn't know a lot about the base. We didn't know who was on the base. We found out when we got there, though. You just alluded to that fact about the special ops guys. But we didn't know. And I don't remember the unit that had it. I think it was an Army unit of some type that had it that turned over to us. But it took us 27 days to get there. And this is a key point of this story is we had no idea why we're stuck in a hotel in Roseville, Michigan, in a Comfort Suites, I think it was, in Roseville, Michigan, for 20 some days, trying to get a tail number to get a bird to go to Djibouti. And we're all like, what the fuck? Selfridge is right there, bro. What the fuck? And so 2 days turned into 2 weeks, turned into 3 weeks. Finally, I get an Advon seat. I found out later why it took us so long to get a tail number. But so we end up in Djibouti, January-ish, somewhere around the second week of January, I think it was, third week of January, probably.
And what year was this?
2003.
Okay. All right.
And like you said about the heat, so we get there in January of '03. Now, it's Michigan. It's winter. It was a mild winter. I remember there wasn't a lot of snow on the ground, but it was the typical 30 degrees in Michigan. And we landed in Djibouti and got off the plane, and I was like, what in the literal shit is this? Like, dude, like sitting in an oven, not opening the oven door, sitting in that bitch. It was like 110 degrees. Nothing compared to what it got to later on in that deployment, but 110 degrees from 30, and I was like, phew. So anyways, we got our, we got our feet wet there and did a left seat, right seat with that unit. They had pretty much posts all around the base. I was a sergeant of the guard at the time, And they basically gave us a command structure. We had like 3 or 4 different working shifts. So you'd be on guard rotation for I want to say 3 days. It was 10-hour shifts. I worked from like no, it was 8-hour shifts because I worked from 2 to 10, which is an amazing shift. But I worked 2 to 10, so you had plenty of time in the morning. They had a small gym. We were living in GP tents, in these huge desert tan GP tents, and there was air conditioners, like industrial size air conditioners. So those people that have seen these tents, what I'm talking about, and you probably know as well, they have a ventilation tube in the center of them that runs down the center with Velcro flaps you open, that the air comes out of. Every single day, those air conditioners would freeze up.
Of course.
And we had cots. We're laying on like a legit canvas cot. And so you would just wake up in just a pool of sweat. Miserable. It was horrible, man. I look at pictures of this place now and they've got barracks and they've got all kinds of stuff. I'm like, you bastards. But anyway, they had a small
You don't know
PX
how
there.
hard I had it. You guys got it so
Yeah,
easy.
Back in
Back in my
both
day.
ways. Uphill both ways. Uphill both ways. It wasn't 101, it was 191. Yeah, so it was shit living. But we didn't know any different. And for us, this was a real world mission, man. Now we're GWAT. Give me the medal, we're cool. So we got to know kind of the system and the way it was set up, and they had a lot of the locals were working on base at the time. And we had built up the infrastructure. But the cool part came about 3 weeks after we were there. I'm on Sergeant of the Guard. We're sitting in our little COC area, our Command Operations Center. And we had a TV up there, and they had news, Fox News, CNN, whatever was playing. And some dude comes walking down the hallway. We shared a building, like a brick and mortar building, with some other unit that was in there. I don't know who they were. Just a regular Air Force unit or something that was running the tarmac. And small office, maybe 20 by 20, and there's like 3 or 4 of us in there, radio watch and whatnot. And this dude, there was a full door. If you could imagine like a half door that swings open where the top separates. So we had the top door was open and we left the half door closed. And it's like a little leaning thing. This dude comes in, he's got a beard, sunglasses, ball cap on, just like a regular khaki ball cap. And he comes in and takes the sunglasses on. He's like, "What's up, dude?" And I'm like, how you doing? I'm thinking at the time, because Kellogg, Brown and Root and Halliburton were running all this shit. So I'm thinking this is like a KBR guy. But he's fucking jacked. Tats, full arm tats everywhere. And just the whole, "What's up, dude?" I'm like, "Hey man, what's up?" He's like, "My name's Brian." I'm like, "Hey Brian." He's like, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm Jeremiah." And he goes, "Nice name, dude. Fucking awesome name. I love the Bible." I'm not bullshitting you. This guy's like, so I'm like, "Can I help you with something?" He goes, "Yeah, man. Me and the boys, we work on the backside of the camp, and we used to work with the Army guys. We'd come up here about once a week and grab some opposition force. You guys want to come down to the shoot house and fuck around for a little bit this afternoon?" I'm like, "Who are you?" He's like a fucking Delta guy or a SEAL. I have no clue that these guys are even on this base. We've only been there like a week or so. And so I look over at this guy named Major Phil Farr. Awesome dude. I hope he sees this because I love that dude so much. And I look over at him and I said, "Sir." And he comes up and, Major Farr, he's like, "Who are you with again?" And so he tells him, I want to say the guy I think he was a SEAL. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm with these guys down there. We got a camp on the backside of base. And, we come up here regularly." So he looks over at me. He goes, "When do you guys go on your rest and rotation?" I said, "Tonight's last night, sir. We come off a guard mount tonight." And he's like, "What about tomorrow?" And he goes, "Perfect, dude. Appreciate it. Meet us down at the backside of our hooch at 2 p.m. ish." Like that. And I'm just like, wow. Because back to when I was talking about the med float in '97, it's the only time I'd been around special ops guys. I'd seen the recon guys, but to me, like, whatever. These guys, this is the fucking varsity team, right? These are Navy SEALs. Like, holy shit. Now we start thinking, well, what team are they on? Are they like the secret team? Or, it didn't matter to us. They were just cool that it was SEALs, right? So the next day, and so then I go to I'm doing guard post. I'm doing guard mount with my corporal of the guard, Dylan Zuck, and we're driving around giving chow to the guys and everything. I'm like, "Hey, listen, tomorrow I got a surprise for you guys." I told Zuck, I said, "Don't tell him." I want to keep it a secret. And so remember, the next day we come off of 3 days of guard mount. We go on 1 day of rest before we go on like 2 days of QRF and then back to guard mount again. So your day of rest that's your day of rest. Like, leave me the fuck alone day, right? Because and I'm thinking they're gonna be so fucking psyched about this, and so the next day rolls around noon. I grab Zuck. I said, "Hey, grab everybody and have them meet over here in the backside of my tent. Tell them to bring their rifles, bring their flaks and helmets, all that shit. Gear up, dude." The looks on these guys' face when I was like, "Hey, everybody, gather around." They're like, they wanted to kill me. Half of them were like rubbing the crust out of their eyes. They're in, we were rocking silkies at that time. Dudes are standing around in their silkies, and I'm like, "Put your fucking camis on, bro." And they're like, "This is bullshit, Sergeant. This is supposed to be a day off." And I'm like, "Listen, you'll appreciate this afterwards." Like, there's no appreciation to getting me out of the rack when I'm taking a nap, dude. So I convinced them, grab all your shit, and we go to the back side of the camp. And nobody had ever seen this part because the way the road went, you didn't go there. For all we know, that's just off limits. You don't go there. So we go over there, and here's this dude waiting for me right outside. And he's like, "Hey, bro, thanks for showing up. How many you got?" And I said, "I got like 15 dudes." He's like, "Come on over, guys." He brings us into their compound, and here's all these SEAL dudes sitting there. And it's like, you turn around and look at these guys, and they're like, all the cool gear, all this shit. Well, they were working up for an op that they were running, and I want to say it was down in Somalia, where they had an HVI, high valid individual, that they were going to go get on helicopters. They were going to fast rope in, and they had like pictures of the guys or whatever, and they were going to go in and do their thing. And so what they wanted us to do was they wanted us to kind of, one guy's going to be the guy that they need to grab. They're either going to smoke every other dude or somehow, whatever their mission was. And they had this little like VW minibus. And I guess the story is that these guys, the bad guys, were going to be traversing from somewhere. They had an idea of what bus this guy was on, and they were going to stop that bus. They were going to coordinate, get the helicopters on it, fast rope down, go on.
Take it down.
Yeah, take it down, grab their HVI and DD mount and get out. And so they had a kill house down there, and their, whatever they call him, their platoon commander, or whatever, their troop handler guy, their officer, he's like, "Hey, you're in charge of these guys?" I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Come on up here." So we went up above on these platforms and got to watch these guys do this op with sim rounds. They get them all kitted up with sim rounds and mass, and dude, that it's like watching a movie live, because we don't do that shit like they do.
Right.
It's just so fluid. Oh, so awesome, man. It was the coolest thing.
So the guys that were pissed off at you for upsetting their day of rest on deployment, did they come back and apologize, or did they say, "Hey, man, this is fucking cool. I'm glad we took care of it," or were they still like, "Fuck you"?
Grins ear to ear.
Hell yeah.
Every single week afterward, "Sergeant, anybody come up and ask for us? They need op 4. They just wanted to go back and back."
Good.
Because again, it was also good training for them.
Yeah.
And they started getting in cool with these guys. Not cool enough to be able to go in and just walk in and have a beer with them, but they would see them at the chow hall and stuff, and they would sit down with them. These guys would come up and sit with us.
Passing by fist bump. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It was, and so it's cool. It's cool for us. So yeah, so we that's all we did. We did guard mount. You talked about the heat. The hottest day it was there was 138.
Yeah, I think my hottest day in Djibouti was like 126. And
insane.
the airplane was leaking. It was leaking.
Yeah.
So,
insane.
All right. So you guys are in Djibouti. You're pulling force protection stuff. The war is well underway. You got, you got some kick-ass things happening there with some Navy SEALs.
So fast forward to March.
I mean, yeah. So like, what happened in Djibouti? Did you guys step off and make it in country?
No.
No.
So what happened was, I take you back to when we were stuck in Roseville and we couldn't get a tail number. I'm sitting there one night with Major Farr again, and we're watching Fox News, and the invasion in Iraq's happening. And I just looked at him, and he said, he looks at me and he goes, he was a big knife guy. So he's sitting there carving a stick or something. And he goes, "Guess we know why we couldn't get a ride here quick enough now," because they were moving all the shit into Iraq. And then it all made sense.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I didn't say anything, but in my mind, I thought, and here we are sitting in a fucking force protection
Yep.
You gotta be fucking kidding me, dude. And
Yeah.
again,
And I get it, man, because when Somalia kicked off, right, we were in Mew floating around. There was a few of us that had part of the forward command element that made it down to Mombasa, Kenya, and all that. But during those times of October '93 and other times down there in Somalia, we yeah, I mean you're witnessing it, you're seeing it, and you want to be part of it. So
yeah,
you guys there being in Djibouti, so close and
yeah,
not going, yeah,
yeah,
I can imagine the angst and the anticipation and the head scratcher and wondering, hey, did they forget that we're here type of thing?
yeah.
So,
Well, and also, and I didn't mention it, but it was only our company with some augments that went on this mission. The rest of our battalion was back stateside. And so the next thing we hear
even further away.
is two of the companies go to Kuwait. And now I'm like, these and it was Bravo and Charlie out of Saginaw and Lansing. And we were like, you got to be kidding me, dude. So now I'm pissed. Now I'm like, these fucks, because it's an intercompany rivalry.
Right, right.
And here, Bravo and Charlie, they're going to Kuwait. They're fucking going to Iraq. Son of
Yeah.
a bitch. And they did a little bit of stuff, but they didn't. They weren't on the road march up Tampa for sure. But
So
yeah,
Djibouti ends. Where do you guys
yep.
go? You go back stateside, back to Grand Rapids?
Yeah, August of '03, it's winding down. There was a couple of things that happened there. There was a helicopter pilot that was killed, Captain Seth Mashad. He was out of Boston. Training accident. They were B-52s were dropping inert rounds out in this mountain area, and one of the rounds skipped up into his 53, and it killed him.
Mm.
Bummer, bad deal, man. And that was like, whoa. Yeah, the only other thing, interesting, funny, I guess, story out of that was malaria is a big thing over there, as you know. A lot of people that are military dudes, they know Africa's malaria is a big deal. So when we first got there, they had us pumping doxycycline.
Yep.
And doxycycline is like an acne medication. The corpsmen were like, yeah, to get rid of STDs too. And I'm like, shit, doxycycline's the king, man. And so I'm like, it kills malaria. And they're like, dude, it'll kill gonorrhea.
Anything.
And I'm like, oh shit. So we're taking doxycycline, and this kid, one of the kids at my unit, I won't say his name, he was kind of a turd. He says, I'm not taking this shit. This is bullshit. It's making me sick. It's giving me diarrhea every day. So he stops taking it. He got fucking malaria.
Yeah.
So as soon as they found out, of course, they sent him back stateside. They switched us over to this stuff called mefloquine, and it was this little yellow tab, and it was a soft pill, not like doxycycline was a gel coat, so it'd go down easy. Dude, mefloquine gets stuck in your throat.
Yep.
And this shit fucked us up. I mean, nightmares, piss in your bed, things
And
like
that's
that.
the one that fucks with you too. You got to stay out of the sun, right? And you're in
Yeah.
Djibouti, and it's
Right.
fucking. And I remember taking it because I picked up dysentery. We were we're doing training in Israel, and the way they set the camp up was we had the flight line, we had we had like our tents, and then they had the shitters. And then on the other side of the shitter, some time away, is where they kept all the food, like all the catering and stuff, and all. And
Yeah.
so they figured out, because we were all dropping from dysentery, and no one knew what the hell. It's because the flies were going from the shitters to the food and back and forth, man. So it's like I remember getting on that stuff, and they're like, "Hey, you got to make sure you're not out in the sun." And you're
Yeah.
like, I'm in the middle of the fucking desert, man. What do you mean not,
Right.
Stay out of the sun,
Right,
But I remember a day or two taking it, man. We all got high and stupid haircuts. And I just
Yep.
remember, man, just like running for shade because the sun felt so much more hot after getting
Yep.
on all that anti-malaria and anti-dysentery and doxycycline and all that. So you're like,
Yeah.
typical military. Here, I know you're in the desert, but take this.
Yeah.
So,
And on top of that, smallpox vaccination.
mm,
So they're doing the and then you got to save your scab and put it in a plastic bag and turn it into them. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, we're literally in hell,
Right.
like not just because of the heat, but hell.
all right.
But yeah, so we August of '03, we rotate out.
Were they DNA swabbing you guys at the time? Did you guys have to do that at all pre-deployment?
Nah, I don't remember that.
Okay.
No.
All right.
I think that a lot of that was done by blood, wasn't it, too, at boot camp? Didn't they?
I don't know. I remember once I went air crew, we were down in Pensacola, Florida, and this was obviously long before 9/11 and all that during the early 90s. I think we were in a theater. I was going through Naval Air Crewman. I was going through NACIS down in Pensacola. Again, it's been a while, but I remember they're like, yeah, there's this shit called DNA, and if you guys if we ever find your tangled or your tangled up body in some wreckage, we can identify you. I think if you rub this in your mouth, we should be able to figure out who you are later. And we're like, all right, whatever. So we're rubbing these sticks in our mouth. We threw them in a bag and handed it to some corpsman or some lady contractor. Whatever the fuck, man. She walked away. But I thought that,
Right.
yeah, it was just a random thought that came up, man. I'm sorry,
No, yeah.
sidetrack.
I mean, not that I mean, it could have, but I don't remember. I mean, a lot of that shit was a blur during that time. It was just,
Yeah,
it was like fucking Groundhog Day in that place. But nonetheless, I enjoyed it. I mean, it was still cool. And then, last interesting point about that before we move on, coming home from Djibouti was we switched out with 6 Marines. I want to say it was 3-6. A little cadre of 3-6 came over, and incidentally, a guy that was my platoon commander when I was a squad leader at Fox Company at MCT, he was a staff sergeant,
no,
or he actually got promoted to gunny. So it was the first time I'd seen him since '99 when I left. So that was really cool, seeing him again. But yeah, so we rotate back to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we go right back to 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. And
now
we did that all the way through up to 2006.
did your training tempo change at all? Did your the scope of the training change at all? Did the was more money provided? Did you guys now
Yeah,
have different type of training areas? I
yeah,
mean, how, because you had 9/11, you guys go to Djibouti, the war's up on its way, this global
right,
war on terror is happening, and now instead of doing the usual training of Eastern Bloc, Russia threat type of training,
right. Yeah,
now
100%.
here we are in the desert, here we are
Yep.
in Afghanistan. So what did you notice back in Grand Rapids as a reservist, waiting, hoping that you'd
Yeah.
get the call to go to war? So what changed at
So again,
with the
so
reserve
this
life?
is
What changed?
yeah, yep. So 2004 would have been our next, because we didn't do an AT, that annual training period, that year, because we had been gone that whole year. It wasn't required, and fucking we've been gone 8 9 months almost. So our next annual training period was '04 when we went back to Lejeune. And what was good about that was is now you've got a year of Iraq, and you had what, five? What are we on? 4 years? 4 years of Afghanistan now.
Afghanistan, yeah.
So that's when those TTPs and those TTPs and those AARs started coming out of theater. Those techniques, tactics, and procedures, and the after action reports, and the hot washes started coming out of theater and trickling their way down to the regiments and the divisions. And so those would get out to us, and we didn't know it at the time, but they were changing so fast. It's shocking how fast they change. Even when you're in country, you see it on the ground, and you're like, "Fuck me, man." But what was beneficial about that was as we would receive those AARs and those TTPs, we would curtail our training to it. And again, this goes back to us kind of controlling our domain now. At that same time, the command staff that we had in '03 in Djibouti started to rotate out. This is late '04. We start getting new chain of command coming in. It would be the chain of command that I would deploy to Fallujah with. Um,
What? All right. So, all right, we're going to start getting into that. All right, we're going to start getting into your deployment to Iraq. And you guys get the word. You're in Grand Rapids. You spend 97 days in a hotel in Roseville waiting.
no, 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 no.
Okay.
No, it was a little bit different this time. It was a little more organized. And like I said, it made more sense when we were sitting in Djibouti in March watching Fox, and we're seeing all the aircraft offload all these Humvees and tanks and all this shit. Now we kind of understand why
And the
we couldn't get a
buildup.
tail number. Yeah, right. So, no, this is well established. I mean, the airfields are well established throughout Iraq where we're going to land. So it was late '05. We got the warning order. We didn't know where we were going to Iraq. We just knew we were going to Iraq. It was, the two theaters between Afghanistan and Iraq. You didn't know where you were going. So you kind of like, it's one extreme to the other. Cave people in the mountains, a more sophisticated, intelligent people in farmlands and urban settings with Iraq. So late '05 comes, we get the warning order. Hey, you guys are going to Iraq. Like, sweet. Now, and we're excited. We're fucking excited. So we started pre-deployment, like what do they call it? Pre-deployment training, pre-deployment training. So we're hitting everything local by us. So we're going out to Camp Atterbury in Indiana. We're doing rifle ranges down there. We're doing some patrolling. We're doing some freaking PME courses. PME courses are going hot and heavy now. So you got squad leaders course, sergeant's course, or I mean infantry squad leaders course. I'm sorry, not sergeant's course. And at this point, I am a platoon commander for 3rd Platoon, which again, I was talking about earlier. You don't have officers. So we had this meeting, and it was already known. I never expected, and thank God, I never expected to deploy as a platoon commander as a sergeant. That's just no. So we got told, hey, listen, we're going to get augmented when we're going to go to Camp Pendleton for our pre-deployment training. We're going to do Camp Pendleton. We're going to do the typical, all the ranges around there. We've got a lot of shit we got to get done, medical, all the administrative stuff, but all of the regular medals that you got to hit to be deployable. Same thing as a MU. Now you're just doing it in ground force. And on top of that, we're going to get, when we get out there, we'll do a Mojave Viper, which was CAX. So I had done a CAX on active duty, and when they said Mojave Viper, I'm like, the fuck's a Mojave Viper? And they're like, it's CAX. And I'm like, oh God. Oh my God. So most of these guys they didn't know what CAX was. They had never done a CAX. And so the few of us that were there that had done a CAX were like, oh boys, you don't know shit
Yeah,
about
for
range
those that don't know
400.
what's going on, CAX is a combined arms exercise, and
Right.
99.99, well, pretty much, 100% of the time it's down in 29 Palms, California.
Yeah.
So out there in the
Yep.
desert. So
Yep.
it's a huge air ground meeting.
Yes.
Huge aviation air wing participation, huge ground force participation, and it is what it is. It's a combined arms exercise, and that's where
Right.
everyone hated going out there, but man, it was good work. It was good work.
It is beyond worth saying the best training that you could ever receive as a ground force, as a support element, as a mechanized element, as an air asset, because it is the one time when everybody gets together
Everyone's
and
together.
it works in coordination. And for young Marines to see that, it gets kind of hard for them to understand, but when you start getting up higher in the levels and the planning stages, when you're writing op orders and stuff, now you start to see like, oh, I see deconflicting fires, blah, 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 blah. Now your
Yep.
snipers are taking a shot, neutralizing a threat. Now your machine gunners are positioning. Now your Cobras are coming in. They're taking out, anti-aircraft. You're dropping 500-pound GBU. You're doing all of this stuff, and you realize like, oh shit. I got to see that in 1996 when we went when I was on active duty. I didn't appreciate it. I don't appreciate that as a fucking mortarman. Sitting back on a gun line, thunk, thunk. You don't see shit. You just fire for effect. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward, we're in 2005, mid to late 2005, and we're starting this workup in 6, and we're going to hit this. Now I'm more in a position where I can see from a command level staff or command staff level position of what's going on. But I'm told at the same time, like, hey man, we're going to get augmented with an active duty lieutenant. They're going to come on. You're gonna go down to a platoon sergeant job. Roger that. So we get out there, and at the same time, there's a bunch of other dudes that had deployed in 04 to Iraq. They're also going to augment us. So I slowly get him pushed down, and in some way I'm pissed. I'm really mad because these are my guys. I've been training with these guys for the last couple of years. I went to Djibouti with them, but then I had an awesome, and when I mean awesome, dude, I'm talking about I can't say enough words about Dan Wisnat. This guy is not only is an amazing fucking Marine, but he's just an amazing guy. Very humble, calm, collective, just a great leader. It's everything you could possibly want in a person to be in the position. It's almost like a lot of people say, it's the right pieces at the right time. This was absolutely right piece at the right time. And that's not to take anything away from previous commanders I've had, but this dude he was it. And so he sat me down and he said, listen, man, he goes, there's so many different jobs that need to be done on this mission. I need you in a more valuable position than what you could be at a squad leader, because that's ultimately what you would be pushed down to, a squad leader. You have way more information and intelligence about the job of what you do as an infantry guy to put you in a squad leader position. So he tasked me with running the company level intel cell. This guy, so Dan was a former counter intel guy, so an interrogator. He had been in Lutafia, Mahmadiyya, and Yusufia during '04 during the election, the Purple Fingers. So they had control of that. And he explained to me the importance of the job that he was tasking me with. He wanted me to grab 4 other dudes, and we were going to build up this database and everything. Dude, it was wild. It was just wild. But at the same time, I was pissed because I wasn't going to be with my guys. So I had him. I said, just promise me one thing, then, sir. I can still go out. I don't want to be a fobbit. Don't make me. He said, fuck no. You're going to be out all the time. That's the whole purpose of this. You're going to be going with different platoons at different times in doing this job, and I'm not giving it enough credit for what it was that I was tasked with. It doesn't matter. The guys that I had with me were the ones that did the job. I just directed it. I was the conductor, and those guys were fucking awesome. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but yeah, man. So we went through pre-deployment workup, and that's how it went. And the platoon commander that came out, he was phenomenal. He was in the battle of he was in Phantom Fury in '04. So
Okay.
this dude had real world experience in '04 in the Battle of Fallujah. So, and that was right about the time that we got notified where we were going. And that's kind of when reality set in because everybody at that time knew what was going on in Fallujah. And that was probably the first time that I say scared, but it was a nervous scared.
Anxiety.
Nervous. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do I know enough to go do this? Am I trained well enough? Are those
Can
guys
I?
trained well enough? Can I? Yeah, that was really what it came down to. Am I going to be able to get shot at? What am I going to do? And nobody answers that question. You don't know. I tell that joke today at work. I say the same thing. I said, you don't ever know what's going to happen until that first round goes flying by your head. And second day in country, round right by my left ear. Like that dude was fucking aiming at me. And that was the light bulb for me that I was like, and I grew up that day.
Yeah. So when you guys left, did you immediately where did you land in Iraq?
I went on Advon Advanced Party.
Okay.
It was me, my commanding officer, my company gunny Lee Kyle, and my company executive officer Bill Gillarducci, who's a Las Vegas Metro cop. So it was the 5 of us. There was a couple others, I think, stragglers, but we flew into El Taqatum, Iraq, which is just south of Fallujah. I think it's south, maybe it's north. I forgot. No, I think it's south. Yeah, it's south. It's southwest of Fallujah. And then we convoyed up to Camp Fallujah, where our battalion headquarters would be. Or actually, at Camp Bahariya, which is connected to Camp Fallujah. But we hit Camp Fallujah first, and then trucked over to Camp Bahariya, which
And
was one of.
they had built Fallujah, correct me if I'm wrong, sometime after, was it 2004? It actually got built up. They wanted a central command point there in Fallujah, so they decided to build a base right in the middle of this hornet's nest, right?
Well, yes and no. It was so Camp Fallujah was on the outskirts, so it was
Okay.
after the Mixer Bowl. So, if you could, and those people that have been there, probably giving them PTSD just talking about this. But so Route Michigan ran through the city of Fallujah, east and west. It connected the rural farmland where I would eventually end up to the city of Fallujah, and then on the east side, on your way to Baghdad, there's a Mixer Bowl. So imagine 4 interchanges of expressway coming into one another to go north, south, east, and west. So we called it the Mixer Bowl. And so you head east, and then as you're heading east, you head south off the Mixer Bowl for maybe a mile or two, and turn left onto just a desolate road that was just military controlled. They had the entry control point and whatnot. Would take you into Camp Bahariya, and then on the backside of Camp Bahariya was Camp Fallujah.
Okay.
Camp Fallujah was just fucking massive. I mean, that's where your all your fucking Baskin Robbins, your Subway, and all that shit is.
KFC.
Yeah, all the contractor type amenities, which is cool. Good for them. They had a big chow hall and everything. But Camp Bahariya, where my battalion was located, there was a chapel. There was they were living in wooden Quonset huts. Weapons company out of our battalion lived there. I think they were them and H&S Company. They were the only two companies that stayed main Camp Bahria, and then they operated out of there. And then they had a small chow hall that I saw twice. Yeah, no shit, twice. I saw Camp Fallujah's chow hall once, Al-Taqaddum's chow hall once, Camp Bahria's chow hall twice.
All right. So the how many companies left Grand Rapids with you? Because before, when you were down in Djibouti, you had two, and then the two, two went to Kuwait. So was your entire reserve component, your entire reserve unit? You guys are all activated now, right? You're active duty.
Correct.
Was it the entire unit itself that was there in Fallujah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, all four companies. We had H&S Company out of Selfridge, Weapons Company out of Perrysburg, Ohio, us out of Grand Rapids, and Bravo was out of Saginaw, Charlie out of Lansing.
Okay.
And so and plus, so we had all.
How many in total do you think that was? How many?
11, I think we went with close to 1,100. So that's
Jesus.
counting.
Okay.
Yeah. So they attached in all reserves, most reserves. There was some active duty, the officers and whatnot, but we had some motor T guys that got attached to us on top of the motor T guys we had, engineer guys. But those guys were all in pre-deployment training with us too. So we went probably, I'd say around 1,000.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It was a big movement.
I guess I didn't have any expectations of a number, but I wasn't expecting to hear 1,000, 1,100. So surprising.
Well, but on top of that though, so they plussed up a company. So a rifle company's probably sitting at about 170, 180, right, something like that. We were probably 220. Okay. Because what we did was we took a sister battalion out of Indiana, out of Terre Haute, Indiana, out of where are they? 324, 3rd Battalion, 24th Marines. So I think we had about 60, 80 guys probably, 70, 80 guys, somewhere around there out of 324 that augmented us because they wanted to plus up each company as well, which worked out great in the end. I mean, obviously it helped us a lot. And then we had guys still checking in. And remember, we're gone. And when we started taking casualties, there were guys that had just checked into our unit. I mean, we had dudes that had checked in out of SOI 2 weeks prior are now in Fallujah. I mean, I can't even imagine. So, like, holy fuck.
So I think we got to set this up a little bit, right? Because Fallujah, hugely impactful to the entire operation over there in Iraq.
Right.
After that, I like to compare, and just stay with me here, because I don't know if you and I spoke about this offline or not, but October 1993, a horrific act of barbarism and savagery took place in Mogadishu. And that event single-handedly changed the policy and the direction of our involvement in Somalia due to the cowardice of Bill Clinton and Les Aspin and those fucks. It left an incredible amount of unfinished business behind. So you fast forward now to the global war on terror, we had another incredible act of savagery and barbarism take place in the city of Fallujah. And on that day in March 31st, instead of it having the effect that it had down in Mogadishu, 10 years prior, it had the exact opposite effect. We dug our heels in, and we were not cutting and running. We're not worried about policy, and we were going to make sure that unfinished business was not left behind. Yeah. So Fallujah, that initial surge, that initial battle, what the Marines did in Fallujah, door to door, block by block, they're going to be teaching that in warfighting school for decades from now because of because of what the Marine Corps did and what the Special Forces did there in Fallujah. And Fallujah also has a very significant geographical importance because as things escalated over here, they didn't want to get fucking killed over there, so let's go to Fallujah. Right. As things were happening over here, oh shit, we're getting our asses kicked here. Let's go to Fallujah. So, I just wanted to paint that story a little bit, just so people knew the a little quick history of Fallujah and and why we were so invested in this in the city of, I don't know, 300,000 people in a very
Yeah.
small area, why the Marine Corps was so invested in that.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. And to that point about what was going on in cities around us. So we actually got to, I was at Advon. I think I got there September 22nd, 23rd of '06. But what had been going on during that summer prior to us going there is a well-known story from another set of infamous podcasters. Jocko, everybody knows that name, and his task force unit Bruiser. Those guys were in Ramadi all during that summer of '06. And what had happened was when the battle, so there was two, I mean, most people that know the story know that there was two battles of Fallujah essentially. There was an initial push into Fallujah, and then there was a reset. And then, like you said, and you pointed out, and rightfully so, they dug their heels and said, "No, we have to fucking take this." So they plussed up like 2 regiments, I think. And if I'm not mistaken, a lot of this was under the direction of Jim Mattis too, which it shouldn't surprise anybody. Mad Dog grabs a hold of something, it's gonna fucking die. So, and I could be wrong about when he was involved in that, but nonetheless, it's all the same. So when they kicked the insurgency, the Mujahideen, the Al Qaeda guys, they're all fucking same. So when they kicked them out of there and they found refuge in different cities, a lot of them had set back up in Ramadi. So then fast forward to 2006, and now you've got Jocko, his guys, the Marines, I think the 500 of the 6th or something. He's talking about it. He's actually talking to that lieutenant commander, whatever it was, that he was operating with and alongside of during that time and telling his story again. And they were able to push those guys just by sheer might between the Marines, the Army guys, and those SEAL guys, push those guys east. Well, essentially what ended up happening was the time that they were going east and they started to kind of set back up in Fallujah again, we get there. So, fuck. And we, of course, we didn't know that. We didn't really know this in the battle space.
I don't want to seem like we might be getting a little in front of ourselves a bit. So let me ask you. You arrive, your advanced party, your whole unit comes up. You got 1,100 guys. You had a different role than what you were used to having. So before we get into, I think we need to talk about your first time leaving. Your first time leaving the FOB, the first time going out on a patrol, or before we get into things. I just want to, just take a step back, and here you are. This is it. I am leaving for the first time. I got a loaded weapon. I got a guy up on a 50 cal. I got vehicles. I got a quick little break with a glitch with Riverside, but we are back. So Jeremiah, that's it. You're in Fallujah. I was asking you what it was like the first time suiting up, having Marines that are in your care and a mission. So let's talk about that.
Well, so I guess the first time that we would have left any type of, I guess what you would call safety, would have been after we landed at El Taqadum Air Base and we had to get up in a 7-ton and drive from El Taqadum 6 miles across town through the city of Fallujah to get to Camp Fallujah. And I was gritting my teeth that entire time. I mean, at that point in time, IEDs were they were crazy. I mean, they were going like haywire over there. EFPs were a big thing at that time too, although they weren't trending in the area that we were operating in or where I was driving through at that time. I just kept thinking like, bro, I'm in an open top 7-ton driving, across town through the city of Fallujah. It was just eerie. It was super eerie because you want to look, but you'd be, keep your head down, you make it to safety over to Camp Fallujah where it's safe again.
Why was you guys being in the back of a 46 or a Chinook or some other form of air travel? Why did you guys have to drive? Was air not available? Was there not?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not really sure. Because we had done it different times, different ways. We had flown before. I mean, in fact, when we left, I'm pretty sure that's how we left was out of helicopter. Yeah, we left out of Camp Bahria by helicopter over to the airfield to get on a C-17. But yeah. So
but
anyway,
today was it. It was a 7-ton. That's it. That's your ride. Let's go.
7-ton, better than walking. So I would find out later that walking was actually safer. But anyway, we get over there you know, you get married up, and it just you're still, you know, you just flew for however many freaking 14 out 15 hours 16 however long the flight is, stop in Germany and then continue on for another 8 hour leg, and you know, you've got that going for you, so you're just feeling kind of groggy and whatnot. But you know, you also have the adrenaline because now you're here, you're on the ground, the smell.
This is
um
it.
yeah, this is it, man. And the smell, that's something that you'll never forget, that smell of that country. um so anyway, we got over there, and I think we slept that night at Camp Baria. And then early the next morning, we took a convoy back through the city. So now I'm seeing it in daytime. Um, we moved through there and we made it out to Fob Black. And that was at the corner of Boston and Michigan. So Michigan ran east and west through the city of Fallujah, and Michigan continued all the way out to Ramadi. And then it almost ran like a V. And then Boston went due south. And right at that corner of Boston and Michigan it was two houses that they had surrounded with HESCO barriers. It had been established a couple years earlier, right after the Battle of Fallujah had ended. So it's well established anyway. Concertina wire on top of the HESCO barriers, probably 7-8 foot tall HESCO barriers, whatever they were. And then so we pull in there. We are ripping with 1st Battalion 25th Marines, Alpha Company 1st Battalion 25th Marines, which is a reserve company out of the Boston, Massachusetts area. So you know, it's 100 miles an hour from there. I mean, you get in there, and of course, again, I'm running the company level intel cell, and then I started to kind of realize and see. I'm still a little bitter. You know, I'm sad. I'm sad at this point because, you know, I knew I wouldn't be a platoon commander, and I kind of thought that I'm probably not going to be a platoon sergeant, bro. I'm a sergeant. I mean, come on, get real. I'm a sergeant with no combat experience. Well, now I start hearing these other guys that are coming in that were previous combat experience. So a guy named Gillitzer came over from 224, who had deployed with my commanding officer the first time. He's a sergeant, of course, and he's going to take over the platoon sergeant spot. And once I got to know these dudes, and of course I met all these guys during pre-deployment training. So I'd spent 3 months with these dudes. I felt a lot better about it because, remember, my sadness or my irritability was more so that I had spent the last 3-4 years with these guys in training with them, and I was hoping to go into combat with them, not even just necessarily lead them, but be with them. And now I'm being pulled back away from that and kind of put in the COC. And that was my concern and fear, was like, I'm an infantry dude. I'm at the pinnacle of my career. It's my first real combat experience. I want to be out fighting. And so I was a little disappointed. But again, after Dan Wiznet had told me what the real mission was, now I'm in country and I'm at the COC, left seat, right seat, and then ripping with this 125 unit and their intelligence cell. And that's when I learned that this was an MO. These rifle companies had company level intelligence cells that were being fed from the battalion S2, that were being fed by the regimental S2, that were being fed by MEF, Marine Expeditionary Force S2. Once the big picture started to kind of develop in my mind and I saw the operation working, I was like, holy fuck, this is a lot. Now I'm getting nervous because I'm like, this is too much for me. I'm an idiot. So I'm like, bro, I'm not, I'm going, and I remember telling my CO, I'm like, sir, I got a 33 on my ASVAB. It's like, he goes, the ASVAB don't mean shit out here, man. Because you have too much experience, troop leading experience, understanding how combat operations are put together, how they work, and how they're distributed. I need somebody like that to run this intel cell because you'll understand the battlefield, you understand the concept of operations, you understand how this works. I can't just dump somebody who, because typically you look at a position like this and you go, give me Smith because he ain't worth a fuck.
Right.
Well, and he explained it to me. He goes, I could do that. He said, but I'm not going to do that because our entire
Yeah.
operation and success is going to be, this is the nucleus. And him being a counter intel guy, him being a former intel guy and understanding that type of battle space and how that operates, he knew better than I did. And thank God. because it really worked out well. But also thank God that I had those 4 dudes, lance corporals and corporals, that I kind of brought with me, handpicked, based on what they did on the outside world to do what we needed to do, and those guys made that shit run. All I
Good.
did was orchestrate. That's all I did was orchestrate. I took
That's great.
I took the commander's intent, and I knew how to make that, how to get these guys to do that. We're right back to what I said before earlier on in this podcast about the why. So I understood the why at the ground level, and I understood also the why from the commander's intent. And now I have to get these 4 guys to put that product together.
So COC running operations, putting info out, taking info in.
Yep.
It's a very dynamic environment.
Yep.
Guys outside are getting hit. They're hitting. When did you first leave? When did you first?
I mean, 2 nights. I mean, we were there 2 nights, and so I don't. Anybody that's watching this, and you would understand this too. Left seat, right seat. It's this simple, whatever you want to call it, synonymous to, hey, this is where we go. This is what we do. This is what we've seen. Here's the people we've talked to, and you got it. We're gone, and it literally is a 3 or 4 day process. And so we were Advon, so we had a couple days. So I guess we're looking at like a 7-day period, I guess, maybe around the 25th or 26th of September. We'd been on the ground. Now here comes the main body. So, well, a big chunk of the main body. So like your squad leaders, your team leaders, all your leadership elements. So now it's the leadership element and the Advon, who are, I guess would have been September 24th, would have been the first real day out of the FOB on kind of an op. And the op was nothing more than a familiarization with the AO, with the area of operation. And we went down to this place off of Boston, that road that runs south out of our FOB. Go down there about 3 miles, I'd say. And then there was a road called Route Iron. It was all these are hardball roads that we're on right now, asphalt. So Route Iron was notorious for being IED'd. And when I say IED'd, I mean these fuckers were taking acetylene tanks, like for torches. They were putting 2 and 3 of those together, taping them, burying them in the road, hooking them up, and they were flipping tanks. That's how big these explosions were. So there was a
Were you guys rolling around in Hummers with Humvees back then, or had MRAPs hit then? I don't think MRAPs were a thing at that time, right?
No, MRAPs not until my second deployment over there in 2009. We didn't see an MRAP. I mean, we saw them, but we weren't in them. We were in up armored gun trucks, hardback Humvees. So we roll out and we go down. We hit.
Were those
Iron.
getting up armored in country, or were they getting delivered like that at this time? Because I know on the onset they had whoever knew how to weld was was taking charge.
These were manufactured. I mean, these it was pretty well established at that time. I mean, these things were pretty legit as far as armors, as much as you could. Because at some point, and I know other people have talked about this tactically throughout the years, it's kind of the downfall. You get heavier and heavier and heavier. You get slower and slower and slower. And it doesn't always work out for you. And just lessons learned. I mean, they work in some cases, but they don't work for belly shots, which was why the development in the usage of MRAPs became so popular with the V-hulls and the deflection of the blast. But anyway, so we ended up outside the FOB on the 24th of September. Myself, and I remember Captain Bill Gillarducci, and remember I talked about Rob Lehner back in the very beginning when we were sergeants together. Well, during that period, I think it was after 04 when he was a sergeant in 03 when we went to Djibouti. 04, he went and got his commission and he became a lieutenant. Went to ITB, OCS, ITB, all that stuff. So now he's a lieutenant and he's a platoon commander of 1st Platoon. So same Rob though. I mean, same dude. He's got bars on his collar, but same dude that I remember. He does a perfect rendition of Cartman singing "Sail Away" by he sings
Christopher
"Sail Away."
Cross or whoever.
Yeah. Whoever the band is.
Whoever the hell it was.
Sailing.
Sticks,
and he does it perfect.
Right? Sticks, man.
Yeah, Sticks. And he does it perfectly. And we had asked him to do it so many times that when he got commissioned, he's like, I can't do this no more. But he did it one more time. Yeah, no, he did. But he did it one more time at Ken's wedding. So, but anyway, so It was Rob, me, Bill Ghilarducci, and a handful of other Marines, a mixed bag of Marines, and specifically one dude named Andrew Music, who's a very important piece to my story. Music had been a third platoon Marine since day one. I had this dude. Talk about class clown, infectious attitude, life of the party. I mean,
There's
him.
always one.
Yeah, and we'll get into it. One of the guys that we lost, but those two were best friends, and I say best friends like best friends. So that was really hard. But we go out. We're on a patrol. We're out in the middle of the desert, and we didn't operate in mostly desert. Most of the area we operated in was farmland, but this particular area off of Route Iron was the desert area. So I was walking on point with one of the guys from 125 that ran the company level intel cell. He just happened to be an Egyptian born, naturalized U.S. citizen who had joined the Marine Corps. So he was fluent in Arabic. Yeah, it was he was an interesting dude, but he was a super cool guy and he was very knowledgeable. And having him, a Marine that speaks Arabic, on the ground made it much easier for them because they didn't always have interpreters around. So he was a
Okay.
yeah, so he was a force multiplier to their unit for sure. We didn't have that asset, so we did a lot of pantomiming when we didn't have interpreters around, and you pick up Arabic fairly quickly too. So we're walking across this open desert, and I remember we had left. There was these small chicken coops, and we had left the cover of the chicken coops coming around. And the guy that I was with, God, I don't remember his name. I wish I did to give him credit, but that Arabic kid, the Egyptian-born kid, he said, "Hey, Sergeant, we're going to head across to that small house over there by that propane tank." And it was about 150 yards away. I said, "Oh, okay, cool." And he goes, and we get about 30 yards out into this open desert area. As soon as we got out into the open desert area, he goes, "This is normally where we get shot at." So I looked at him, and so at that point, I'd never been shot at. So I'm like, oh, and I kind of laughed. And dude, I'm not fucking kidding. Less than 10 seconds later,
Here it
I
comes.
heard snap, and I heard it so loud. I didn't hear the whiz. I heard a snap, and it was right here. And I mean, I felt the concussion on my ear, and I knew. And I'm like, and what do you think I did? Take a stab. What do you think I did?
Kurt, you're probably cursing. You were probably pissed someone tried shooting at you.
And I went and froze.
Oh,
The last fucking thing you would do when a round goes by your head is freeze, and I froze. So I turned around behind me, and music was right behind me, and I said, "Hey, did you see where that came from?" And as soon as I got the word "from" out of my mouth, all I heard was "whoa," and I saw sand right by my left foot, and I mean like right by my foot,
that woke
and
you
it
up.
was slow motion. I looked to the front and I looked back to the rear and I yelled, "Run!" So that's all we could do is run. And so they had us kind of in a fucked position because Bill Ghilarducci, the XO, and Rob Lehner, the first platoon commander, they got pinned down by a massive pile of brush.
Okay.
If you've ever seen concealment, cool. Definitely not cover. Bro, I was so worried for them. I'm like, fuck, because we had made it. We ran the rest of the 100 meters, and oh my god. And so we're not in the greatest shape. We had been training, but we're not like these guys have been operating for 7 months. They've lost 20, 30 pounds walking everywhere and shit. And I'm a little chunky at this point. Dude, I was like, I call it the 100-yard Medal of Honor death run because that's all it felt like. I'm just running for my life, dude. I didn't know because you're not returning fire and running. You're just running to the closest cover you have, which happened to be this 12-foot wide. And I know it was 12 feet, and I'll tell you why in a second. This 12-foot wide, like brick outbuilding by this propane tank, and there's a car sitting next to it. So the reason I know it's
Just
12.
looking back, I laugh because it's like, hey, that, like, how do you tell the Humvee driver, hey, that one place we usually get shot at? Well, let's go
Mhm.
there. And then you
Right.
dismount, and then you get shot at.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
like, was that needed? Like, did you guys have to do that?
Right? This was
Like, what was
totally
the operational
unnecessary.
importance of that?
This was unnecessary. So we the reason I knew that building was 12 feet wide was because I don't know, the average person's right around a foot wide. And here we are standing shoulder to shoulder and there's no room left.
There's 12 guys.
We got our back to where the machine gun fire was coming from, and I'm on the forward edge next to a guy named Kedrick Dozma, who last time I heard was a cop in Lansing, who later would get shot through and through in the leg. And hilarious story. Don't let me forget to tell his story. But anyway, so we're pinned essentially behind this building, but at least at this point we got cover from the direction the fire was coming, cover enough that I felt comfortable. So we start returning fire around the side of the building, and I mean the rounds are skipping off, the bricks are chirping off at us, and that car that was there, Dozma runs across to the car so he can get a little bit better angle, and he gets positive ID. He gets pit on the two dudes on the roof, and they're on a roof about 300 yards away, and they had like it looked like a rifle and probably an RPK or a PKM machine gun, belt fed 7.62, and they're just sawing through it, but they had adjusted their fire from our building over to that brush pile.
Mm.
And I'm like, fuck, man. And we can't run. It makes no sense to run back to them. So
Right.
we're trying to get them to run to us. And of course, in typical Marine Corps fashion, no fucking comms work. None. I mean, they work on your radio check when you're leaving the chicken coop area. But as soon as
That's it.
now we're here, and I'm talking, dude, when I'm telling, these guys are probably 50 yards from us behind this brush pile. And we can't talk to them with a freaking 3-foot tape. So I'm busting out the 10-foot antenna to put on this 119 or whatever we had, 148s, whatever. I think we had 148s even, but I'm putting a bigger antenna on this fucker. So I'm just streaming at this point. And there's gunfire. You just can't. You can't. It's hard and it's echoing because of the building and where we're at. And so this was the first time that I'm like in an oh shit moment. Like, fuck, man. Now I don't even care what's happening with the guys that are shooting at us or them. How can I get those guys over here? Because we got cover. And the whole time we're trying to call the QRF. And they're trying to call the QRF. So finally we're able to, there's a lull in the gunfight, and we're able to yell like, hey, we're going to throw smoke. You guys run here. We got enough cover. Well, as soon as we start to do that, off in the distance, because it's quiet. Now it's quiet. And Dozma's yelling to me. He's like, they're getting down off the roof. They're getting down off the roof. I'm like, sweet. That's when we should start pushing. We should start moving to them now. Move to where that contact was. Ultimately, they end up getting down and getting in a car and taking off. ISR had seen them flee southwest, and they go into the city or some shit. But anyway, while this is happening, in between them getting all the way down off the roof and Dozma telling me this, all of a sudden in the distance I hear thump, thump. And I know what that sound is because I'm a fucking 0341 motorman. And I'm like, shot out. Fuck. And now I'm waiting, and they're all like, shot out. And I go, we got about 40 seconds, gents. I said, that time of flight on that's probably about 40 seconds. And I said, and if I had to guess, so what I think we had come up with and what we realized was they had us triangulated. That's exactly what they did. So I think what their plan was to hit me, have me go down. I'm a casualty. Now they're working that with the Kazovac and whatnot, hit us with machine gun fire, and then hit us with mortars as everybody's coming in. I think that was the goal. Thank God that did not happen. I did not get shot once, not twice. My dudes behind the brush pile were good to go. QRF finally were coming. They were hearing our comms, but they couldn't comm to us.
Okay.
So they heard everything that we said. So it was a matter of maybe a minute to 2 minutes by time here come the gun trucks, and then the 50 cals and Mark 19s, and they're lighting up that car that was running away, but we didn't get them.
Nah. Was there anyone else in the building where
No.
were delivering their fire from? No. Okay. All right. So you roll out there, you get your first engagement, right? Pucker factors up a little bit. You realize that you're in the shit.
Yep.
How did that day end? Did you guys just pack up in a Humvee and said, "Okay, we're familiar now. We're heading back"?
No. So the reason we were down there in the first place was because they had a patrol base. They had set up 125 had set up a patrol base in that area to kind of like link up and marry up with the recon unit that was working an area about 10 minutes down the road, in this small community where there was a bunch of Mujahideen there and real bad dudes. And anybody that's been in this area that listens to this podcast will be like, oh yeah, I know exactly where it was like a hotel area almost, they called it. I forgot the name. But so what they had figured out is that the fighters were moving in and out of the city of Fallujah, but they couldn't figure out where they were moving because we had checkpoints set up everywhere. We had entry control points. So when the Battle of Phantom Fury happened in the second Battle of Fallujah, they basically gave the ultimatum to everybody, like, get out. Anybody that's left behind, you're a bad dude, and we're going to kill
Yeah.
you. So, and everybody knows that story, that knows the history of Fallujah. So anybody that remained behind, obviously there were probably some civilians that they don't have anywhere to go, but most of the people got out. Well, smartly, before everyone was allowed to come back into the city, what they did was they set up entry control points around the city. And as people were coming back, they had to prove that they were residents of Fallujah. And when they did that, when they hit the entry control points, what they would do is they would give them a card, an ID card. So it's almost like a cat card, like a military cat card. And so they had their picture on it, and they had like their name, their biographics. So we batted them, is what they call it, biometric automated targeting system, fingerprints, photo, and a name, and where they lived or whatever. So what they figured out was these guys, to get around that, what they were doing was they were coming down Iron, they were going out into the open desert, and they were traversing back and forth between Fallujah, where there was no control point, down by this dam. And so that's why that became a main deal. Like, hey, let's set up shop down there. So that's what we were doing down there. We didn't go down there a whole lot throughout our 7 months. Only a few times, and it seemed like every fucking time we got fucked. We were getting tore up down there pretty bad. So eventually we ended up closing our circle in, but I want to say we had probably close to 72 square miles of an AO just for our company that we were
Jesus. Okay.
controlling.
Decent
Yeah,
size, huh?
yeah, for sure. The other companies, so I mentioned it, Bravo and Charlie Company and Weapons Company was all in the city, all urban.
Okay. So, what was day to day like there for you in Fallujah? You got these battles happening, you got these engagements that are happening.
Yeah.
The war is well established. You got people from cities that satellite Fallujah coming in to engage you guys there. The insurgency is well on its way. So,
Right.
what's up? What's day to day
So
life for you guys?
So my commanding officer, Dan Wisnett, he's like I said, his background with intel, he realized and knew right away that we needed to know who was in our battle space. Before we could do anything, go anywhere, do anything, we needed battle space recognition. So what are we going to do? We're going to go conduct census operations. So just like it sounds, you're literally fucking walking the ground, door to door, and you're walking up and you're going, Shishmik, what's your name? Shanu, what's your name? What's your follow-on name? What's your follow-on name? And at the same time, so you got one person taking a photo, you got one person writing down the name, and
Hello,
you
I'm
got
from the
another
United
person,
States Marine Corps Division of the Census. Can you please
Census
tell me how
Bureau.
many people currently live in this house, and can I have their names and their ages?
Dude, that is exactly what we did
I figured.
for like a month fucking straight. Oh my God. So
And it's good information, right? Everyone was
yeah,
truthful.
and so we'll back up. Before this happened, the guidance from the CO was, hey, we need to build a database. We need a database. Now, there was a lot of like meth level databases that were going around. There was people were using different databases for different things, and there wasn't one real, hey, everybody use this one database. This is where information will be shared. So I had a kid on my team named Josh Clayton. Josh Clayton on the outside world is a computer programmer. He has his dad send him a server. It got there, I fucking think it was like a week. We got this somehow. We get this tower server. And I don't know what terabyte, trigabyte, whatever fucking tech shit is. But what he did was I told him, I said, listen, as we take this census information in, because on top of the pictures and the names, we were by GPS, we were doing 10-digit grids down to a meter of where these people were found and where they lived, and then what tribe they said they were with. So there was only one main tribe in the area, the Abu Ifan tribe, under Sheikh Khamis Ifan. So we knew the tribe, but we didn't know who belonged. And that was the problem. That is the problem with an insurgency, is that's why that happens, and that's why it's so hard to fight that type of battle, is because we don't know who belongs there. They did, but they're not working with us yet. We don't know these people. I mean, we're on the ground for a month. So Clayton develops this program. I tell him, hey, every time we encounter somebody, I want to be able to type in a grid in a search bar on your computer system, and I want that to pull anybody we found, and I want to be able to say, who have we seen at this 10-digit grid within 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters. And on top of the people, I want significant events. I want SIGENTs, IEDs, gunfire, anything, direct action, anything we've done. I want that all in there. So long story short, he develops this program, and every time we would want something added, this fucking kid, dude, I don't know how computer programming works. I know it's like a bunch of backslashes and colons and this and that and the other, and all of a sudden this little image appears on. But he would sit there for sometimes 20 hours at a time.
Just plugging away.
Hit enter. Oh, that's what it does. Oh no, I needed to do this instead. And he would type something else. And I watched him do it one night. And it's code, right? It's all nerd code. And I'm amazed by this shit. I'm like, what in the fuck? Now, this is a Marine rifleman who on the outside world is just a programmer. And to this day, he still does that kind of stuff. Just a super genius and an awesome kid and just relentless at his work. And he wouldn't finish until the product was done.
Did he get hired in the 33 on his ASVAB?
Probably.
Okay.
So so as the Marines were patrolling and as they're getting the census for the first probably 3 weeks, six weeks, I'd say, all we did, dude, was census and load this shit into that database until we just had a bigger picture of what was going on. And so the CO could come in and now you can plan an operation. Now you can start putting trends together. So now I start looking at patterns and trends. Okay, here's where kinetic activity was. Here's where this happened. Here's what every single time and times a day. Every single time we're here at this time of day, this happens. And okay, so let's try to envelop that. And that's where I really started to understand the importance of my job, and how valuable that job was, and that I invalued it because of my own pessimism, because of my own kind of poopy pants attitude of being removed from the platoon. And at the same time, I still got to go out. I was constantly out on patrol, and doing all that shit. So it was kind of cool.
All right. Let's get into some of the heavier days there in Fallujah, man. I know part of the prep for today, between you threw some numbers at me, and they were stunning. They were aggravating, and we need to talk about some of that, man. We need to talk about some of those brothers of yours. So if you're up for it,
sure.
Let's get some of those guys preserved, man.
Yeah,
they deserve it. So,
like I said, prior to these deployments, for the first 6 years that I was in this unit, I was a section leader as a platoon sergeant, and then I spent most of the time, about 3 years, as a platoon commander. One of the guys that I had in my unit, brand new as a PFC, you might even have a private, was Thomas Michael Gilbert. Everybody called him Tommy. This would be Andrew Music's best friend that I talked about. Those two, they went everywhere together. They did everything together. So I remember the first time that I met Tommy, Irish kid, big grinning smile, and just a total clown. Nicest kid as can be, very professional. Never said no to anything. Anything you needed done. Roger that, Sergeant, I got it. I remember he got a DUI shortly after he checked into the unit. And at the company level, they're talking about ruining this kid. And I'm like, and I went to bat for him. I'm like, listen, I said, I haven't known him that long, but I got a feeling about this kid is just a good dude, man. I said, people make mistakes. He fucked up. Let's give him another chance. And ultimately they did, obviously. So, they busted him. I think they busted him down or gave him whatever restriction. So fast forward, all through training, all through California, him and Music are out together, and they would come back and, as their platoon commander, platoon sergeant, I didn't usually go hang out with these guys all that much. A couple times I did. They would come back with these stories about what they did the night before down in Gaslamp or something in San Diego while we're up at Pendleton. Wild shit. I mean, stuff that I won't even repeat.
Can only imagine.
Yeah, it's Marines on liberty who are best friends and are really civilians most of the time. So they're used to doing stupid shit. And they're both living in the Chicago area at the time too. So that's and Chicago's a big city. It's a big place to have fun and party. And so Tommy was from Downers Grove. Illinois. It's a suburb. It's a nice upscale suburb of Chicago. I had met his dad, Mike, and his mom, Terry, and his sisters prior to this at family days and everything else. And dad was a firefighter for a long time, and then owned his own company. And mom was just the sweetest lady. Just still are. They're both just fucking awesome people. And they were really close with the unit. They always wanted to be in the know. They were always around, and even living out there. And so, he's with third platoon, and one of the platoons on the morning of October 25th, 2006, one of the platoons had been hit by an IED, and they had a downed vehicle. And this particular road off of Boston, so I talked about Boston going south out of our fob, and then there was a dirt road about halfway down called Water Tower Road. We call it Water Tower Road because there was a water tower at the end of it, right along the Euphrates. And to cut through to the road along the Euphrates, they were going to take Water Tower Road. And I was unaware that any of this was going on. I was up till about 4 a.m. on the 24th, into the 25th, working on an op that was going to happen later that evening. And I had went to bed. So I go down into this house where we had, and I'm on my cot, and I think I felt like I was asleep for maybe 2 hours, but I guess it had to have been around 7 or 8 in the morning. And it had been raining. That was the other thing that I remember about this vividly, is it was raining. It was just that thick, like humid air, because this is October still. It's still hot out. And Lance Corporal Muir, one of my intel guys, he came down, and I'm pretty sure it was, I don't think I had a light on or anything, but he had a flashlight. So he kicks the cot, and it scared the shit out of me. We'd get mortared and stuff like that. So eventually you just start sleeping through a lot of this shit. But, and it was a small fob. I'm talking 200 by 200. So he kicks my cot, and it scared me. And I looked up at him, and I could see enough ambient light to see his face. And, just a look of terror.
Mm.
I mean, I can't, I remember it like it was yesterday. The look on his face was just like he had been stabbed, and he was in shock that he'd just been stabbed. And he said, Sergeant Howe, you need to come to the COC right now. And I'm like, I'm like out of it, dude. I'm so tired. I'm exhausted. We had been up for days, and then this, and I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm in my shorts and a t-shirt. I don't even bother grabbing my flak. It was pretty standard. You throw your Spartan vest on, grab your Kevlar and your rifle, and you go. I mean, there were gunfights on our fob, from the tops of our fob, with dudes. I got pictures of them in their silky shorts with a fucking flak on and just getting after it. But so I just grab my rifle, and I'm in a t-shirt and my silky shorts, and I go running up to the fob, and he's ahead of me. And, we got the limestone gravel. And I still just, I'm in shower shoes. So the crunch, it's going in my feet. And I'm like, ah, 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 ah. And I remember exactly how it felt. And so we had a swing door on the fob, on the COC, and it was spring loaded. And every time that fucking thing shut, it would slam, just slam, like a screen door on a freaking ship or something. And it kept slamming, and it kept slamming, and it kept slamming. And I saw more people going into the COC, like right before me. And I'm like, so something's going on. And so you walk into the building of the COC and then hang a left, and you go into the main door of the COC. And as soon as I opened the door, and this is where I went to almost every single night. That's where all of our maps were. That's where our sand table, our planning ops and everything. That's where our radio operator would sit. So I walked in the door, and the radio's just going nonstop. And I see my CO, I see Dan Wisnat on 2 radios. He's got 2 radios. And he's keying up one, and he's keying up the other. And I'm not even, I don't hear anything. I look to the board, and I see 2 KIA, 1 WIA, Alpha 3. So, and it's got their last 4 up there in their blood types. And I'm sure I remembered last 4, but all I saw was Alpha 3, 2 KIA. And I knew those were my guys that I spent years with. So I said, what's going on? And everybody's busy. Everybody's buzzing around. And I'm like, what's going on? And Muir, the one that came and got me, Lance Corporal Muir, he goes, it's Gilbert and Thornsbury in Bueno. Sorry. And I said, what happened? And they said they got hit by an IED. And I said, where are they? And he said, we're trying to get the exact location. It sounds like Water Tower Road. And I'd been down Water Tower Road. In fact, I drove down the fucking road the night before. Right over the fucking IED. Right over it. And the reason I knew that is because that fucking thing was buried in the ground. Imagine canals on both sides of the road. This is a crowned dirt road. They had dug it in the side of the road. And it was 455 millimeter artillery rounds underneath the driver's seat of Thornsberry. Jonathan Thornsberry. He was an augment from 324. Quiet, well-mannered kid, southern boy, everything you would possibly think about a southern dude. Thick accent. He was a coal miner. 20 years old. Had a 19-year-old wife, Tony, at home, and a 2-year-old baby. And I had counseled him during Camp Pendleton when I was still their platoon commander on financial stuff. He was having a bunch of financial problems, and I was, all while training's going on, he's crying because his wife's having such a hard time at home. They're about to get a car repoed and stuff because he's making way less money now as a Lance Corporal than he was as a coal miner. His mom and dad didn't like Tony, his wife. It was a fucking mess, man. And they got that reconciled. I was able to get on a 3-way call with him and Tony. Well, 3-way, he's sitting next to me on speakerphone, and I was talking to Tony. And I was able to find them resources through Navy Federal Credit Union and some things. I'm just working, man. I'm trying to find anything. We were able to get them a loan through Navy Federal Credit Union. No questions asked. I think they loaned them like $8,000 or something to pay this car off, so they didn't have to worry about it. You know, we got on the phone with a bank man. It was crazy. But anyway, so Brad Bueno was the turret gunner. They were the lead vehicle. And it was command detonated. And we know that because they chased the wire. And the wire went out about 800 meters to a tarp behind the side of the house. So, you know, and when we went the opposite direction of where where the wire was, there was a telephone pole, an electric line pole. And what they did was they lined it up. When the vehicle got in line with the telephone pole, that's when that fucking savage hit that detonator. So the worst part about all of this, if that's not worse enough, is when the vehicle was struck underneath the driver's seat, no doubt Thornsberry didn't feel a thing. I mean, he was probably just disintegrated instantly. Brad Bueno, the only thing that happened to Bueno other than a major concussion, he got knocked out, was it broke his left tibia and fibula. Because he was the turret gunner and right on his left side where the blast was. And
Did he get thrown from the vehicle?
Yeah, it ejected him out through the turret and about 30 yards into a field, into like an irrigation field on the right-hand side. And the worst part about it was the vehicle had ended up getting blown forward about 30 feet and on its passenger side. And when the vehicle was blown up, the overpressure opened the doors because these are doors that are combat locked. And I don't know, I wasn't there. I can assume that Gilbert locked that door, but who knows? I mean, he may not have hit that double lock. But the door blew open, and what had ended up happening was when the door blew open, Tommy ended up outside the vehicle and crushed by the actual where the windshield meets the door. And I have a picture of the door afterward. So, I mean, I would like to think, I hope, God, I hope, that he didn't feel that. Because I can't imagine you survive that blast and then you get crushed by that vehicle in your head. And Mike told us later that during the funeral that it was bad enough that they bandaged his head because it was just, there was nothing. It was just flat.
So you're in the COC, you get word, KIA's wounded, you barked out. I'm sure it was more so than where are they? were you guys able to locate the vehicle? Do you eventually get a good handle on where it was? And
Yeah.
did you guys roll up? I mean,
Well, that was
what?
my yeah, that was my first. I mean, my first thing when I saw that was the emotions I get from it now. They weren't the same. I was I was pissed. I wasn't
Yeah,
sad. I was mad. And so it was a convoy is what it was. It was his entire squad was rolling out to support that down vehicle to basically set up a cordon and secure that site so they could rig the vehicle for tow and get it back. Thankfully, nobody was seriously injured in that, and that was weapons platoon that had been hit off of Water Tower Road. So nobody was seriously injured. There was somebody broke their nose maybe or something or got a concussion, but nobody was killed for sure. And so they were just going out there to secure that site and to render some assistance to them and rig it for tow and make sure everybody got back safe. So when that happened and I saw that, I was so mad. All I wanted was rage.
that's it.
Um, and so they started spinning up another squad from third platoon to go recover this vehicle, and it was Music Squad. And and I was sitting there and I'm like, at first I thought, are you guys fucking insane? But they had to because the other squad wasn't available. They were the only squad left in that platoon. And by this time we were doing things called long ops and short ops. So we would have an entire platoon out on a long op for 13 days at a remote patrol base, just patrolling that area. And then we had short ops where they would go out on like a short 2-day thing and come back, but closer to the fob. And then we had fob security and stuff. So I think every platoon was tied up with something. And so I heard, because by that time the clarity had come about what was going on.
So was it more? Just give me a second here, man. It wasn't conducive to have those guys out on the long patrol to break off from what they were doing to make it to the site,
Now, because
or
they
the
were too
guys on the
far
shore.
away.
Okay,
And the other thing was too was they would get dropped off. They weren't usually taking we only had so many vehicles, so they would take
okay,
these guys down on long ops in like 2 7 tons, and they pretty much didn't have vehicles.
all
They
right,
would just be down. They would take over a house, kick those people out, tell them to go to the CMOC, the Military Operations Center in Fallujah, and give them a yellow card to get some cash for their house. And that was kind of what we did. We frequently did that. And the long ops operation was on the other side of the AO. It wouldn't have made sense. And for whatever reason, they said, hey, we need a squad to go out. And nobody questioned it. Everybody wanted to go right now. And the other reason for that, too, that they want another squad to go out there was because now you've got a down squad who had self-recovered by that point and got themselves back with a tow bar. Because we're not going to send another squad past that point because we don't know. We didn't have EOD sweepers or anything like that. That was a resource we had to call for. So there was really no way to get to those guys in 4th platoon and weapons platoon to go recover that vehicle. So it's like, hey, you're on your own. We got to fix this first. So the next mission was then, hey, we need a recovery team. So they were sending a wrecker because they got to recover the vehicle. So they were sending a wrecker from Camp Fallujah, Bahria, but that's going to take hours to get to us. In the meantime, so that we don't have a complex attack or a follow-on attack, which was typically the enemy's TTP, was to wait until everybody rushes to that aid. Now you start hitting them, and it just creates chaos. It makes sense from an
yeah,
enemy. I would do the same thing.
yeah,
So
yeah. Draw people in, right?
yeah, and I would do the exact same thing. It makes sense to me. So that was the biggest concern, was further on casualties and the trauma from the rest of the squad of what they're witnessing right now. Um, the heaviness of that team leader underneath his squad leader, having to negotiate how to get this. Okay, first I need a wrecker, because I mean they were going through. And later I talked to the team leader, and he's like, "Man, we were talking about pushing the Humvee over." anything we can to get this vehicle off of Tommy. Because I mean, they see it happen. They saw it live, and now they go up to the vehicle and they see that, and he's helpless. Now, obviously, he was gone, but just that we need to fix this. And at the same time, are we going to get a complex attack? And I've got Bueno out in the field with a broken leg that I need to get stabilized. So you got a corpsman working that. Obviously, Thornsberry and Gilbert are killed. So I mean, next thing, right? I mean, in precedent of what needs to happen, urgent surgical routine. But okay, those guys but I got an urgent surgical because I got a compound fracture. So we need to get this guy out of here. So they were able to get him Casevac, and so anyways, I walked out into our like little staging area where the vehicles were, and I wanted to go. And the CO said, "No, stay here. Don't go out there. Stay here." Because I think he knew. He could tell that I wasn't in a frame of mind of I want to go help. I want to go kill. And that's how bad things happen. And I know that now. And that was the right call. But
well, that's a leadership, right?
Yeah.
To have that recognition,
Right.
in order to, you got to be able to put your arms around people, man, and say,
Yeah.
not now, not now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a blessing that you had people like that over you, man, because you can't. And it's not because you don't want to. It's not that you're physically incapable of, but you can't, and if you're still being effective in that role that you're at now performing, why remove you from it? So it's good. So from a leadership point of view, I mean, you can't argue with the call.
Best dude on earth, man.
Yeah.
And so I and I understood. I knew what he was doing. I accepted it. I said, "Yes, sir." So I walked down to the parking staging area where the Humvees were getting ready to pull out, and that's where music was at. And he wasn't crying. He wasn't crying. He was staring like off into the distance. And he was just standing there like a stone statue while everybody else is getting vehicles ready to go. They're mounting guns up on the vehicles, all the heavy guns and stuff, what we got. They're getting extra ammo, shit like that, litters. Because, I mean, a lot of the guys, they didn't know what the extent of it was. A lot of those guys had no idea that those two were killed. A lot of those guys knew that the vehicle had flipped and that there were two KIA, but they didn't know who. So, they're going out. They know there's a problem. They're going to go to it. And the rest of the guys were very focused. They were very stoic.
Did you guys have any Iraqi forces with you, or were you just okay? So there wasn't a hope and a chance that, hey, maybe it was an Iraqi that got hit, not Marines. Okay, all right.
No, we knew for sure that it was our guys. We didn't start doing that until around February, I guess, of the deployment. So, but I remember I was looking at music. And he's just emotionless. And I grabbed him by his left forearm. And he didn't pull away from me. He just tensed up. And he wouldn't. I said, "Look at me." And he didn't look at me. I said, "Bro, look at me." And he looked over at me. And he's still not crying. But he's quivering a little bit. He's fighting it. That's when I knew he was going to be okay. Because that's the emotion that I didn't have. But I was a little worried still that he was feeling the same rage. And so I said, "Hey, look at me." And he finally looked right at me. And I said, "Don't do anything stupid." And he goes, "I got it." And we fist bumped. And he went out there and he didn't do anything stupid. And later we talked about that and what he was feeling. And his feeling was exactly what I was feeling. Like, he straight up told me, like, long after we were back in California, we're decompressing, we're back, this is 6 months later. He says, "You don't know what I wanted to go do. No, I do. I do. Because I would have went on a fucking suicide mission and started just going in houses and fucking smoking people.
Right.
Anywhere near that trigger device, I would have just started fucking smoking people. That's how enraged and out of my mind. And that's that. I mean, when you say you're out of your mind, no, that's out of your mind, because you go into the black and all you and just blood red. All you want to do is just fucking kill people now.
Right.
And that was very difficult. And it made me feel better when I said that to him, because it just,
and in some aspects too, it would be feeling like it's the right thing to do at that time. Hey,
100%.
whoever guys just got smoked, we're all pissed, we're all filled with rage, we want vengeance, and no one would have questioned the motivation for it, but it would have been the right thing to do,
right.
because it's there's no guarantee of the outcome. There's no guarantee of that being successful. There's no guarantee that, and there's never a guarantee in a dynamic environment like that. I'm not saying that there is, or that it's even expected, but no one would have questioned it. No one would have doubted it. No one would have not appreciated the motivation for it. But it's not the right thing to do.
No.
And you can always, and as a leader, you got to be doing the right thing for the right reasons. And cut people loose to go seek vengeance, it's not the right thing to do. It'll come.
No.
It'll come. But we got to do the right things for the right reasons. We got to be, we have to be ready for that, So, again, it just falls back to that leadership, man, and what I know of you, if you didn't get that check from him saying, Roger that, I won't, you wouldn't have let him go.
Nope.
But you felt confident enough because you've been enough with this guy. You've had your arms around him enough. You've experienced him enough that you had that trust in him that he wasn't going to go out there and fuck up and do something that he shouldn't be doing. So,
yeah. And it was, and again, it was the emotion, because I mean, look at all the shit that goes on today. Look, every time you see one of the mass shooters, right? You look and you're like, those of us that have kind of seen bad shit, you look at these dudes and you go, oh, look at his eyes. You can see it in his fucking eyes. That dude has he's got no soul left in him. No shit. And that's what it was for me, is when Andy looked at me and I looked at him and I said, don't do it. And I said, don't do anything stupid. Just don't do it. It won't be good, or something to that effect. But I definitely know I said, don't do anything stupid. And I think that's, and it's his own battle, right? It wasn't my words that made him feel emotion. I think it was there, but I do think it allowed him to let it out. And that's when I knew, like you said, I knew he would be good, because now he's back in his right mind. It's still, I mean, I can't even, the things that he had to see, he went to the scene. He demanded to be and they even tried to keep him away. When they pulled up, when that follow-on convoy came and they're like, no, don't go up there. He's just like you would see in a TV. I was told he just pushed his way past everybody. And unfortunately, when the wrecker got there, and I wasn't there, this is what I was told. And, I really hope that this isn't something that Mike or Terry were hearing for the first time. And if it is, I apologize. But I heard that when the wrecker rigged for tow to try to right side the vehicle, for whatever reason, the angle of it or whatever, it just drugged the vehicle. And it didn't last long. I was told it was like a quick fucking stop. So, a foot or two, but it wasn't the right way. It just wasn't, whatever, it's muddy out, it's everything else. But these Marines are watching this, and, it's just, I can't even imagine, man. But, I mean, I can't imagine. I imagine all the time. But, after they left the FOB to go out on that, I didn't know any of these things until long after. We didn't talk about this. This wasn't something that we talked about the rest of the deployment. But right after they walked out of the fob, and again, I hadn't shed a tear yet. I watched those guys load up in the Humvees. I told music, don't do anything stupid. Be cool. Go get the job done. Come back. And then they pulled out of the fob, hung a right, took off down the road, and we had a couch. So beat up, looked like something you'd see in Elvis's house or something, like a velour fucking couch outside of the COC, which nobody ever wanted to really sit in very long because of the border threat and everything. But I went up to that couch and I just sat down on the couch and just lost it. And Laner was there, Rob, and he was the first person that came up to me. And he sat down on the couch, just held me. And that was, of all the days, even when I got blown up twice, shot at all the time, whether we were getting RPG'd or that day, and I mean, I've been there for what, 30 days, a month, running on 2 hours of sleep a night, probably. Go. And that wasn't the first engagement. I mean, obviously that they were responding to an IED attack, but our dudes were in a gunfight almost every single day, getting mortared almost every single day. I mean, fucking the second day I'm there, I'm getting shot, almost killed. I remember that night, because that was middle of the day. That was the morning when this happened. By dinner time, I didn't have an appetite, but I knew I had to eat something, and we lived off microwave popcorn and ramen noodles and Easy Mac, Cheesy Mac, whatever. I sat down with a bowl of Cheesy Mac, and I'm just sitting there eating the Cheesy Mac, and it seemed like I had aged 10 years in one day. I didn't feel like it. Like, my body didn't feel like it. My mind did. I felt like, hey, it's all right. And growing up, I was never, we weren't a religious family. I went to some Lutheran church off and on with my grandma a couple times during the summer, some shit. I don't remember being baptized. We didn't grow up like that. We didn't grow up saying grace around the table. I didn't have any of that stuff. Boot camp, you know why you go to church in boot camp, most people. Get the fuck away from the drill instructors for 3 hours every Sunday.
The same reason why we go take the ASVAB and the same reason why we go donate blood.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm getting away from this chaos. But so one thing that I know God. At that point, I believe in a higher power, is what I'm trying to say. And I believe that, hopefully, whatever that is that I get saved to, hopefully I go to that. But it was always just kind of it's a cliche to me.
Yeah, I get it.
And on that day, when I sat on that couch,
it was real.
I said, hey, man, when it's my time, it's my time. Take care of me. And I always attribute October 25th of 06 kind of when I accepted it. Because how in the fuck else could you take a person, and this is so horrible to say. This is so horrible to say. Why not someone else? And I think everybody probably feels this way when they lose a loved one. Like, why did it have to be that person? Why couldn't it have been that person? I don't wish that upon anybody. Anybody watching this, I don't feel that. I question that. Like, it's Tommy Gilbert. It's Jonathan Thornton. Those are two of the most fucking amazing dudes. And why them? Why those two dudes? But
goes
over
back
the
to what
years,
we were talking about earlier, Jeremiah, right? Like the why can be the easiest question in the world, or it could be the most difficult question to answer, man. I mean, it's and losing two brothers in combat like that to in that manner, the why could be the same why as knowing that your mother choked to death, or knowing that a little kid, something horrible happened. Those are the whys that can't be answered, right? I mean, it's just, so I get it. Why? Why them?
Yeah.
There's plenty of other people who, and I don't, this is going to piss people off. I get it. You know, you saying why not someone else, me, but we can always look at other people and be like, fuck, I wish it was so and so. And we really don't mean that. We really don't wish that. We really
Right.
don't say, God damn it, it should have been fucking Jeremiah. I wish it would have been that guy there. No one's thinking that. I mean, that's not what
Right.
we're talking about when we say it. But it's just like, why did it have to be them? Why couldn't it have been someone else?
Right.
And then it does happen to someone else. And then it's an ongoing
Yeah.
cycle
Yeah.
of thought, man. You know, why?
Right.
Why them?
I guess for me, and even now, as I sit here and think about this, and you're right, you're 100% correct. It's not like I looked over and said, well, what about Smith or Jones?
Right.
That's not, yeah,
Yeah,
no.
not at all. Not at all.
Why more so? Why, God? Why did you choose this person of all the personalities, of all the souls? You know, rather than someone else. And we all know these people that are like just godless, loathsome people
Right.
and whatnot. And you're like, why did they fucking get? But you know what it makes me, and I'll tell you, and this is kind of a sidebar, really, real quick. But when I listen to these podcasts, when I listen to the podcast when Jocko's talking about Mikey Mansour, the Medal of Honor winner that jumped on that grenade, and when they talk about those people, they're all the same type of people. They're all the people. He says it all the time. I listen to him. Why him? I mean, the nicest dude and the nicest
Yeah.
family, and you always think that. Like, I know dudes in my unit that have never talked to their families. They hate their fucking families. They're just womanizing, alcohol abusing, drug. Why not that dude who
Right.
had nothing else going for them? And that's so selfish to say, and I don't mean it like that. But they're always the same dude. It's the Mark Lee. It's the Mikey Mansour. Even look at our dudes. You know, Dakota. I feel so embarrassed. The other dude that jumped on the grenade, Kyle. Um,
Yeah.
they're just awesome
I
fucking dudes. And it's always the same type of people. So, but at the end of the day, man, I from that day on, when I sat on that couch and when Rob put his arm around me, I didn't say it, but I felt it in my heart and my brain. I accept whatever you're giving me. I don't care if I walk out this fob tomorrow and I take one right between the running lights and the grape. I'm good with it. I'm perfectly fine with it. I accept it.
fuck yeah.
And
So-
that got a little bad. That got a little bad because I took it a little too far. I took it a little too far. I got a little cavalier. I got a little.
Well, I think that might be a good time for me to ask you. So you had this event that took place. KIA wounded, vehicle recovered. Had a fucked up scene when the vehicle recovery happened. For lack of a better term, bodies recovered, processed, moved on. Right? They get put
Right.
into the KIA system. I'm sorry, into the KIA system. They're on their way to Dover. Right?
Right.
And what happens with you? You still got to lead. You still got to work.
Yeah.
What do you tell the guys?
I think I was closer to, besides music, being his best friend, and some of those guys in that platoon, of course, I don't take that away from them, but I was closer to Gilbert than the guys I was working with. Only one of those guys came from that platoon, so he was kind of close with Gilbert, but not that close. Those guys were out of it. So I sent him away. I said, "Hey, man, go down and chill. Go to your hooch down to the house. Take the night off. I'll take your guys' shifts, whatever needs it. As the platoons are coming in and whatnot, I said, just go chill, go watch a movie, go get your mind right." And I think one of them, Lance Corporal Mir, he stayed. He says, "No, I'll stay with you, Sergeant." I said, "All right," but there was two others like Clayton, and they had been working like dogs anyway, and I wanted them to take a break. They needed a break, but this was really and they were just, you could see, it was the first. We had a guy, Alan Webster, one of our radio operators. He had gotten shot in the femur, and He's just a clown too. I mean, he was fine. He almost died in the hospital from staph infections afterwards for surgeries, but awesome dude, you know. But other than that, we didn't have any major issues. We had some close calls. This was the first like real hit home. Like those dudes aren't around anymore. So it was tough for a lot of the guys, and you could see it. Like I tell you, I say I feel like I aged 10 years. Some of those kids in that platoon, they look like they aged 30. It was on their face. You could see it. They were so demoralized. But thank God, that lieutenant and Mike Gillitzer, the platoon sergeant, were there. Same as Dan Wisnat. Awesome fucking leaders. Boom, re-engage, and kept them busy. And that was really the goal. And I think that's the goal with anything. And, you know, you got to re-engage.
Yeah, and you brought something up about our youth. Those of us that serve, those of us that have seen the shit. There's someone else who's always seen it worse than the other. You know, I
100%,
mean,
for sure.
You'll never get an argument from me about anything along those lines. But you brought up the point about it aging. You know, you have 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds, etc. Right? The youth is robbed, right? And you see it in their face. They have a different look. They're walking different, like from the time of an incident forward, they will never be the same again.
Yeah.
They might mask it. They might fake it. They might adjust to it, but they're never going to be the same. And it ages not only their face or look in their eye, but it ages their soul, right?
Right.
It's that inner thing, man. And that's what I want to impress upon people. I'm like, I don't, you can have a guy coming back who's done things that, you and I and others would consider awesome. Door kicker, pipe hitter, taking it, a couple KIAs along the way, still strong as fuck today. That dude ain't the same. And you can't argue it. His soul has changed, right? His heart has changed, right? And everyone's different with the way they carry burdens. Everyone is different by the way they move on. Everyone is different with the way they handle that type of trauma, But the one thing I will never be argued out of believing is that when we go through that, the soul changes, man.
100%.
And it's just like, fuck the look. The soul, man. It's just something that I think that we need to remember, that we need to make sure that we never forget, because you can always blame, I want to seem like we're going in a circle here on you guys, but it's just a soul changing forever type of experience, man. Like even like our memories with the smells and stuff like that. I mean, you were talking about Western Africa, man, seeing these, I remember the first time I was really like, there was a UN field set up. What fucking country we're in, man? Some shithole in Western Africa, right? And it was some of the fallout from the Houthis and the Tutsis in Rwanda. And there was a field of kids, man, and they were fucking kicking around a half-filled air soccer ball. And the majority of the kids, they had their arms severed from their elbows down. So instead of killing the kids, the rebels would chop the kids' arms off at the elbow so they could never pick up a rifle and fight again. And what I noticed was, when I'm standing there and you're looking at this and you see these kids, they're all smiling.
Yeah.
They're all having the time of their life. They're in some shithole country in Africa. They're in some fucking field. They're eating mush and rice, and they're kicking around a soccer ball that's not even filled with air properly. And they're all smiling, man. They're all smiling. And I mean, that just showed me and see where I'm going here in a second, is the beauty of the, like the end, one of the end products of that savagery that those kids went through. Was it enough to damage them enough where they weren't getting enjoyment out of what they were doing? But it was enough for me not only be like, damn, that's fucked up, but at the same time, like, it helped me get through flying those people out, doing what we were doing, and then knowing that those kids are going to be okay, man. They're still smiling, you know. And so when you have an event like this where your life has changed, your soul has changed, you got a burden, you just went through that with a group of guys.
Right.
And those are your brothers now. You guys are that's it. You could go years and years and years without seeing these guys, never talking with them, never getting a fucking text from these guys or anything else like that. But because of what you guys went through together, that brotherhood, that bond, that's it. It's cemented. I mean, it's welded, it's ingrained. It's not going anywhere, man. You know.
Sure.
And then you guys are going to be able to put your arms around each other, tell funny stories. Music will be able to laugh about it. But it's just, yeah, it changed us. It fucked us up. But at the same time, we have a brotherhood here now. We have a bond here now, and that's no one on the outside is ever going to understand that, and no one on the outside is ever going to be able to break that. So it's it's I mean, you got to look for the beauty in every tragedy, man. And when you have a tragedy like that, you know, you can walk away with knowing that, you know, you guys are there. You guys have each other, man. Doesn't matter. 4:00 in the morning, 20 years from now, man, they're going to answer your call. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you guys were, I mean, how much longer did you spend in Fallujah? How much longer did you spend in Iraq? How did that deployment wind down? And you went back to the States, and you and I were talking that, you know, you made some changes, you know, and then you made another decision.
Yeah, so that was. I mean, we were only there a month when that happened. So after that, and we had some WIAs after that. The Dozma story, really quick, that I wanted to tell you, Kedrick Dozma. So all during training, one of the TTPs was if you have an up armored vehicle, like, keep your fucking door shut until you're going to dismount. Don't have your door open. So Dozma, all through training, and I mean all through training, and he's such an awesome dude. This is not a knock on him, but it is funny. So all through training, I would come by, and I'm walking around and observing the training that's going on. And every single fucking time, he's sitting in a Humvee and he's got his door open and he's got his foot propped up on the door, talking on the radio. Roger that, or we're about to dismount. And and it's only for a split second. But I would come by and like shove the door and almost close his foot in the door. He's like, fuck. I'm like, keep your fucking door shut. Lo and behold, we're in country. And they're on long ops, or they were on short. I think they were on short ops, actually. And Dozma is he like clockwork, bro. Got the door open, got his foot up on the door, fucking sniper round ricochets off the inside of the door, goes through the meaty part of his hamstring, out the thigh, through and through. He calls in his own medevac I'm sitting in the patrol base. And he's like, shots. We got shots fired. One WIA. The WIA is me. I looked at the platoon commander and I went, what the fuck? And they're like, oh, is he okay? What's going on? He's like, I'm fine. We're coming back to the patrol base. So he comes back, and yeah, it's a through and through. It was a decent sized hole, but Doc's got him patched up. And so I'm like, how did that happen? And he goes, well, I was about to get out of the vehicle, and I went, you had the fucking door open. he just smiled, and I'm like,
yes, I did, Sergeant Howe. Yes, I did.
yeah. So, and he was a sergeant at the time too. So it's like we were giving each other shit, and he's like, "Oh, fuck off," and I'm like, "Well, go get your shit fixed." So they flew him out to Germany, and I think this was probably a month after this. So I don't know. We were only there a couple months when this happened. There was a lot of time left in the deployment. So he gets flown to Germany, and somehow my company commander, Dan Wisnat, he knew some guy that was at I think it was at Ramstein or Rhein-Main Air Base, at the hospital, at the Naval Hospital in Germany, whatever, and made contact with him and said, hey, I got a guy over there. His name's Kedrick Dozma. Can you go see him? Yeah, sure, man, no problem. So he goes and sees Dozma. Dozma's been in the hospital for like, I don't know, a month. Or not in the hospital, but in recovery. He'd been patched up. It was no big deal. No infection. And Dozma says, hey, I need to get back. And the guy's like, oh, no, you don't when this happens, you just wait here, you go through rehab, and then you go stateside. He goes, no, fuck that. I need to go back to Fallujah. He's like, oh, I don't know, man. And so he's like, and like, it was like out of a movie. Dozma says, I told this guy, I said, get me fucking back. So the guy leaves, and this is the story that I've been told. So the guy leaves, and Dozma goes and finds some nurse who knows some flight detail, who knows some staff sergeant in the Air Force who's getting ready to do a flight. And somehow he gets on a stick roster with this army unit that's going into Baghdad. So he gets on this flight roster, totally not supposed to be doing this. Gets on the flight roster, and we don't know this is going on, by the way. Like, nobody at our command knows this is happening. He gets on the flight roster, he gets to Baghdad, and then gets a convoy from Baghdad to Camp Fallujah, to Camp Bahariya, to our battalion headquarters, and then gets a convoy. I'm sitting in the COC, he comes busting through that fucking swing door, and he's like, I'm back, boys.
The resourcefulness of a U.S. Marine. You got to love it.
I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I'm good, I'm back. And it was just like, holy shit. And but yeah, so that was a funny story. But so yeah, we so obviously that was the first two KIAs and the first major incident that we had, but unfortunately it didn't stop. And throughout the battalion it was happening too. In the city, they were getting hit by IDs, they were losing people. A lot of WIAs. I don't know how many Purple Hearts. I mean, you'd have to look that up. It's statted somewhere, I'm sure, but it had to have been in the hundreds. But we lost 22 total in the battalion KIA, and we lost 5 in our company. And the next unfortunate incident would have been January 19th, Jacob Neal. And IED, anti-tank mine underneath his seat. And the shitty, I mean, as shitty as that is to lose somebody, it was just, and I don't put this on the command. I don't put this, and God rest his soul, the platoon commander, Jeremy Hoffman. He was a Naval Academy grad. He died of brain cancer some years ago. Him and Staff Sergeant Owen, they made the call. I mean, we were living in shit conditions. They were right down the road from El Taqatum. So they decided one night, hey, man, let's send a logistics run. You guys go and get some fucking G-Dunk from El Taqatum. Run out to El Taqatum, to TQ, get a list from other guys what they want. We're talking like Doritos and shit like that, some Mountain Dews. We're not getting any of that stuff. We're living off the land. And so Captain Hoffman, they made the call. Yep, go ahead, go do a log run. And it was on the way back from that log run that they got hit. And a lot of people shit on him over that. And I was pissed. Anytime I heard somebody saying, "Oh, they shouldn't have fucking done that for fucking Doritos," and it made me really mad. Because I looked at it more from a leadership standpoint, and by that point, I mean, we're 3 months into the deployment. I've accepted my fate. Like, hey, it's my time, bro. And if he made the call again today, I would have been thinking the same thing. Like, yeah, even though there's a risk for it, is it a completely unnecessary risk? I don't know. That's an opinion, man. I don't take it that way.
Subjective.
Yeah, he made the call that he made. That dude had a heart of gold. Just infectious personality. Again, another great dude, fucking brain cancer. And it's like, why? Why, man? But I think they made the right call. But unfortunately, yeah, he got hit by an anti-tank mine. I went that night. We recovered the vehicle. He didn't feel a thing. Judging by the vehicle and what I saw in the vehicle, 7.5 pounds anti-tank mine, shaped charge right underneath the vehicle, underneath his seat, I mean. So, and that was that. And then a month to the day, February 19th, we lost Brett Whitavine. He stepped on an anti-tank mine, walking right down the road. And the fucked up part about this is that he was almost the last guy in that patrol. 20 some other, it was a platoon patrol. I'm pretty sure it was it was a squad plus. Every single one of those dudes walked past that.
They followed the same route, huh?
Same route. Tactical column. The only thing that was bad about that situation was his MVGs weren't working, apparently. And I won't shit on anybody for this, but he had went to our armor / equipment guy who was a sergeant. And when you want to talk about people that were put in positions because they couldn't fucking do anything else, that was this guy. And I won't mention his name for sure, but he had Witteveen. The story is he went to his squad leader, and I know this to be fact because his squad leader is one of my good friends, Dave Ogden. Well, he actually was a platoon sergeant at the time, but he went to the squad leader. Squad leader sent him to Dave Ogden. Ogden said, "Go down to this individual at the armory type quad con we had on the fob and get that shit fixed because we're leaving in an hour." He went down to the individual, told him, "Hey, these aren't working properly, Sergeant." And this guy was a complete cock to him. "Well, they fucking on? What are you, retarded? Do you even know how to fucking use them?" This is a PFC. I mean, he just joined the unit before we left. So Witteveen was a very
There's a
humble
time and a
kid.
place for that kind of talk. There's a time and place for that type of attitude. There's a time and place for that type of engagement,
Yeah.
But when you have someone coming to you saying, "I am leaving, this is broken, I need this fixed," the
Yeah.
only response should be, "Roger that."
I got you. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And listen, even if your response was, "What are you, fucking stupid? Did you turn them on?" I mean, you could even say that in a joking way. "Did you make
Right.
sure the batteries are in?" That kind of stuff. But that wasn't what happened. What happened was, get the fuck out of here. If you don't know how to use your own fucking equipment, figure out how to use your equipment before you come back here. Well, Witteveen, being the guy that he was, real quiet, real humble, he was embarrassed.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to say nothing about it.
And if that guy was worth a shit, he would have taken 2 seconds out, probably come from behind that fucking cage or wherever he was at, right? And he would have said, "Hey, man, let's see what's wrong with it." New guy who probably doesn't know, new guy who's leaving, new guy who fucking may need these things, instead of just sitting down, taking it and be like, "Hey, man, this is what you need to do. This is why it wasn't working." Or, "You know what? You're right. It is fucked up. Let me see if I got the resources to fix it or to help you and get, so you can make it out of here on time." So when I hear shit like that, it's fucking infuriating, man. Infuriating.
Yeah. And again, this is a third person version, so there's probably some nuances in between. But the fact of the matter was no matter what happened, no matter what was said, no matter even if the tensions were good with the sergeant that was running the cage, that's a 19-year-old PFC who walked out of the fob with MVGs that weren't working on a night out on a fucking patrol. And we're not God. I don't know. Your time, it's your time. We don't know that the MVGs would have saved him. Everybody else had MVGs in front of them, and they didn't step on it. Of course, they didn't see it either because somebody would have called the motherfucker out and halted
Marked
the patrol.
it.
And
right.
Yeah, we would have marked it with a chem light and continued, or at least got EOD and halted, whatever. But yeah, man, that was really bad, and that was actually in 1st Platoon and Rob Lehner's platoon, and he had a hard time with that, and so did Dave Ogden, and that's a shame because those are both just fucking class A dudes. And who knows? I'd like to think that was preventable. We can't go back in time right now, but that was Brett Witteveen. And then our last KIA, the date I'm almost positive was March 28th. God forgive me, and family of Kenny Van Slyke, forgive me if I got that date wrong. I apologize. But it was Kenny Van Slyke, and Kenny Van Slyke was one of those guys that was, young kid, had a brand new kid at home, struggling with finances at home, just had so much shit going on. And he was one of those guys that was a follow-on augment because of the WIAs and KIAs that we had. So this kid checked into our unit while we were already in Fallujah. And they sent on a rear, they brought on that rear echelon to augment us. And, they were out at what we called ECP 5, entry control point 5. That was the last entry control point before you went into Ramadi. So Ramadi was only 10 minutes down the road from there. And he was working. What they did is they would have a line of cars coming back into the city. This is what I was talking about earlier. They had to check all their IDs to make sure they had authority to go into the city. And on that particular day, and it was middle of the afternoon, Van Slyke was out at working the entry control point, and we had a ballistic shields on wheels. So what they would do is the car would pull up, and then you would roll this ballistic shield out, and so you were talking with the driver, almost from like a from like the front windshield area of the car. And you've got, so you can see everybody in the car. So you've got your rifle here. So if a threat, you can take care of your threat. If it's, unless it's an IED, you get a vehicle-borne IED, you're fucked. But the purpose of that sliding mechanism was for sniper fire from where all those vehicles, were lined up in line waiting to come in through the entry control point. So on this particular incident, the car purposely, we know this purposely now, it was a bait. The car pulled further than that rollout thing would roll. And Kenny had been there a month, probably, maybe 3 weeks. And I don't know if it was complacency or just a total absence of where he was at the time. But he stepped outside of that shield. But not the car was pulled far enough away purposely because they knew the shield would only go so far. And he got shot by a sniper right here, right on the, just past the plate, because we had sappy plates, just past the plate, and 7.62, and whatever the angle was or however it bounced around, but the exit wound, the corpsman told me the exit wound was the size of a tennis ball, and he bled out. They loaded him up in the Humvee. They were going to rush him into over to Camp Fallujah. If you're hauling ass, it's a 8-minute drive, 9-minute drive. But the doc that was working on him said he bled out in the vehicle before they even pulled away. So he was our last casualty. And I was told, and I believe this story from Matt Barrera, the guy I talked about earlier who did like the 23 years. He was one of the original guys at that company. He brought the next set of group of guys. He came out there too because he didn't deploy with us initially. But Matt Barrera told me later that Kenny was he heard Kenny arguing with his wife on the phone, or his fiance, I think it was, the night before this happened, and he heard him say the words, "Sometimes I wish I would just die so you could get the life insurance money so we would be fine." Dude, that shit you only see in a fucking movie.
I don't even think you see it in a movie, man. It's just, we have the young, the broke, the young, the over, and I'm not meaning this in an actual manner, but you have the young, you have the broke, you have the overtaxed, and you're going to Fallujah. And it's not, and I'm not getting anti anything on you guys right now, or you, and I think you know me well enough, but it's like, we don't have any systems in place, man, right? Or at least we didn't at the time to know, can he go? Yes. Should he go? Well, let's look at it, right? So was it, I'm not looking to blame anyone, right?
Sure.
Should that kid have been there? Right? Because it could have been the wife, it could have been the bills, it could have been the last phone call. If I hear a statement like that from someone who I lead now, I'm yanking your gun. So should that kid have been in theater where he was baited because of what he's got going on in his head, where an extra couple feet with the barrier in a car pulling up took his life? Because if he didn't have all this stuff going on, would he have been like, fuck no, back that vehicle up?
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know if Uncle Sugar, if DOD or Department of War now have accepted, because we're more than just bodies, man. We're more than just fillers for quotas. We need X amount in theater. We need X amount doing this or that. We need, it doesn't matter. We need someone in that box at that hour doing that. And I think you know what I'm making the correlation to.
Yeah. 100%.
Should they be there? And if we don't have those type of filters in place, if we don't have the leadership to step up, if we don't have the wherewithal to say, hey man, not you, let's get this fixed, get me someone else.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
And in all fairness to the command and even all the way up, like you say, the Department of War and Hegseth and these guys, they rely on small unit leaders to be able to take care of this thing. And if I had having experience on the active duty side as well, I would be willing to bet, although I don't know nowadays. I hear there's a lot more separation and individuality on the active duty side. But at least when I was in the '90s, and you could probably attest to this as well. Your chain of command would have been way more in tune with your issues, whether they're marital, uh, personal, financial, even religious. All of that, all of those things. That's easier to do on active duty for sure. And so without getting too far and saying, well, yeah, that guy should have done this and should have done that. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, but again, I'm hearing this as a story. I wasn't there. I don't know that this happened. But I believe Matt, he's a good dude. I can't imagine he would. And I can also see him, he's a very compassionate guy too. So I could see him going, and that's a fucking weird thing to say. Like, you want to go out and get killed? Like, that's weird. And just like, oh my God. And then having the deja vu or whatever, or the like, oh
The
my
actual
God.
event happening.
Yeah, that just happened. Oh my, and then you're thinking about it going, and I mean, maybe something could have been done. So I do think you're absolutely right. Um, I hope that those filters are in place. I could see it being more attributed to active duty than the reserve. Reserve is just a tough animal to do that kind of stuff with. But even, I mean, we go through 3 months of pre-deployment training. It goes right back to what I was saying about JT, about Jonathan Thornsberry, in being able to counsel them and give them kind of a path and look for resources and stuff. That was all done while we were in California. That was the reason why I was trying, and I was going up my chain of command and went all the way to battalion and stuff, like, hey, what can we do? That's how we came across like the loan thing. And I don't remember, so don't quote me how that all played out, but apparently it was handled. So that's off of his mind. And that was what was on my mind as his platoon commander, platoon sergeant at the time, talking to Dan Wisnat, was like, hey, this kid needs help. This is a fucked up situation to be in. He can't focus on training. All the obvious things that I'm saying right now, everybody knows. So yeah, you're right. But yeah, so we move forward. There was a lot of things that happened on that deployment starting around Christmas time. There was a local militia that operated in that tribal area, all Sunni. And again, this is tribal area, not government area like the city of Fallujah. So, and it's so crazy because it's separated by a little tiny river, the Euphrates, not tiny, but tiny. And over here in the farmland, you've got like this archaic view to how they control their people, if you will, versus in the city, it's just so different. They got a mayor, they don't have that shit out where we're at. And we're 2 miles from each other. And I think I kind of preferred the way we were doing things. I did. I liked the old school, you got the sheikh. But what had happened in the beginning when the war kicked off in 03, 04, Sheikh Khamis, he fled and went to Jordan. A lot of the sheikhs did in that area because they were terrified that they were going to get killed. And so around Christmas, it had to have been right around Christmas time, one of the Marines from 3rd Platoon, 2nd Squad, Sergeant Chris Doctor, his squad was on an overwatch position down in the village where all these tribal people lived. And this car came flying down the road in a Mercedes or BMW or something like that, and there's a guy hanging out the window with an AK and he's shooting it up in the air. Remember, at the time, we didn't really know who was in our AO. And you're shooting out your car door, hanging out the car door, shooting up in the air like that, and you're in an overwatch position, that's a threat. Right? This is an Al-Qaeda, this is a Mujah guy. So they killed him. Car comes to a stop. People start coming out of their houses, screaming, no, no, no. This was the very first time that we were introduced to Sadoun, or as he
That
liked
was
to be
probably,
called,
let me guess, that was
Dark.
celebratory fire because someone was returning, right?
That or it definitely wasn't a bad guy. So, and so now you got 2nd Squad down there, Sergeant Doctor, and I don't remember who else was there, but they were trying to like navigate this fucking problem, and it was getting bad. And here comes Sadoun, who is kind of like the lieutenant of the he was the one that was kind of running the tribe while Khamis was gone, and So he comes out, and thank God Sadoun was who Sadoun was. Because he came out, he spoke English, perfect English, in fact. He understood what had just happened. Doctor was from DOCKTER, doctor. Man Bear Pig, we called him. So he
Hell yeah.
from Tennessee, he was from Johnson City, Tennessee. So Southern boy, slow talking, drawl. Hey, listen, man. So they got around, and he was pleading his case. He's like, I'm so sorry. And Doctor, being a solid fucking dude that he is, laid it all out there to Sadoun and was like, I am so sorry. I apologize. We'll do whatever you need. I'll help you. We'll help you get I'll help you do whatever you want. We'll make sure you get money for this, everything, right? Wise beyond his years. And just a solid human being. And that's probably why. So that was the night that we met Sadoun, and we realized that Sadoun was in charge of the tribe. So he demanded a meeting with Dan, with Wisnat. So we went down there, met this guy, and birthed the relationship between us and the Sunni militia that was to start taking the fight to those guys.
Good.
And Dark was an interesting character, man. That dude was in, and I sent you that article. He was killed by a suicide bomber after we left some years later, and such a shame. He had little girls and whatnot, but really interesting guy, because he admitted to us that during the initial Battle of Fallujah, he fought against the Marines. So, and he claimed, and I don't know that this
That's
is
not a good idea. I'll
story.
stop doing that.
Yeah, this is his story, right? And he even showed us a bullet hole in his calf where he had been shot. Now, who knows? You know, those guys are kind of like mafia guys. They want to tell these big tall tales because they want to befriend you, and we learned that about
Right.
them. But one thing that I did learn immediately was being the intel cell, and I was attached to the hip of Dan Wisnat, my CO. He brought another guy in from the battalion S2. He was the S2 Bravo, named Jim Roussel, Roussell, Jim Roussel. God, I don't know if that guy's alive anymore. I hope he is, because he was an old bird then. But he was a chief warrant officer. And his civilian job, he was a lieutenant. I believe he was a lieutenant or a sergeant for the gang unit in Chicago. This guy, and he deployed before to Iraq in the same billet as an intel guy. He knew everything. This dude was he was the wizard behind the curtain, if you will. He was so wise. I love that dude. And he taught me so much shit about how these people operated, how they were so closely aligned to mafia style people.
Vehicle are taking fire on primary and secondary